In
No.
GW.
Sorry.
cute.
Sorry. Hi. I'm still in my pajama shirt because it's a work from home day today. But welcome everyone to Fabled 42.
Still cute though. Still cute though.
My name is Anne. You can find me on Dusty Wings Illustration on the gram. And today is our recap episode. So if you missed a couple episodes, this is a really nice chance to catch up on everything that's been going on because it's gonna pick up from here. This is sorry, my cat's trying to eat my lizard.
Guys, this
Yay!
is just so I know what the fuck is going on. I've been
Yeah.
busy.
Also, this is to catch Butters up on everything happening.
And you guys get to watch.
And Nate, so all
So
right.
I'm just gonna be sitting here being like, okay.
Oh, that's where that decision led to that decision.
Beerus, leave him alone. I swear to God. When your leaky anus. Okay, I'm sorry. Everyone else introduce themselves. Please.
Oh man, well, you know me as Avaran, but you also know me as Chris. You can find me on Instagram as the real Chris S, or you can find me on Twitch and PlayStation Network as Agent Fox 5.
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Mackenzie. I go by Mascot or MSCOT on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter. I play Toddle. He's so cute. I love him. Yeah, that's about it. Really, I'll pass it to Butters.
What's up? It's me, Butters. You can find me at Sticky Butter on Instagram or most of the other socials. I sometimes occasionally post art. Nate, take it away.
I'm Nate. I played Dutch in this campaign. I was here for like the first 2 sessions, promptly screwed off, and I've been back ever since. It's very bright outside my window, so that's why I look like this. And at this point, I've sort of committed to the bit.
Yeah,
So
please
we're gonna roll with it at least until the rest of this sun goes down. I will pass it off. I guess it's back
GW.
to GW. Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate you sticking with the bit. I do. I love it.
Yeah.
You get brownie points from me. Hey guys, I'm GW, and the thing that you need to know about me is that I got an order sent to me recently, and it came with tons and tons of bubble wrap of all shapes and sizes, and I kept them because I love bubble wrap. So what I'm gonna be doing while Snyder is walking us through this recap, I'm gonna mute myself and I'm gonna just be popping bubble wrap because like they just make me feel good. Back to you, Ann.
Your comfort.
It's my comfort.
I love that.
And if at any moment you hear me popping these bubble wrap, you let me know because I have been known to mute the wrong mic. There was one person who got upset at me that I was eating on stream and I thought I was muted. And till this day, they are still upset with me. So you let me know.
So upset.
I mean, you did commit a crime, so.
Well, you know, it's fine.
Ear
It's not that bad. It's just a little ASMR.
Take it away, Ann.
All right. Well, yes, we are recapping our, I would say, season 2 of the show. Season 3.
Maybe 3.
I was gonna say
Great.
it's kind
2
of
and a
three.
half.
2 was probably hell. 1 was before hell.
Right. Well, where the team has left off, right now they've crossed this kind of mysterious barrier that separated the trench and the rest of their journey. And they have a lot to look forward to. This is I would say, probably the final season of the show, so things are going to pick up pretty fast pretty soon. So definitely notate some things. If anyone has any questions, we'll hold that until after the recap is finished with. But, you know, between each session, we'll definitely have a little open dialogue of things they remember and moments that were their favorite, things like that. And just kind of a nice time to reflect on what's been happening. And we're gonna fucking finish this shit with fucking bang. So, lovely Chris over here is gonna take over from here and recap everybody session by session. So
We're starting
All right.
from
Episode 42
to 50. Surprised we're doing 52. 50 is a quick one.
We'll count 50, but really it's 42 to 49. Episode 50, hey, we played Hell Quidditch. There you go.
Yeah.
There's your
Yeah,
recap.
yeah.
Hey, do it in order. Go.
All right. So we're going to start with episode 42, Along the Way. Last our heroes left off, we had been kidnapped by a demon named Saphira, leading 2 other demon lackeys. Saphira wanted to take the party to the city, which coincidentally is where they intended to go anyway. They asked that they please stop by a nearby temple first, though, to find Vera before leaving this area. After journeying for a while, the party and their captors decide to make camp for the night. Avaran questions Calamity about the logic of calling themselves the Hellraisers in front of people who have probably been searching for them for the last 100 years, which Calamity may not have originally considered. Snowball then asks if she should attack the demons with an ice cube stuffed snowball, but Avaran advises against it as it won't do anything other than irritate their captors. As they continue making camp, Avaran throws a sideways glance at Saphira while also throwing a firebolt at the stacked wood to make a fire, almost as a way of kind of like threatening her. Meanwhile, in the background, Blue is making a cabin rather quickly, more quickly than expected. And once camp is made, Calamity asks who wants to take the first watch, to which Toddle volunteers. Saphira maintains a silent vigil, snowfall steaming on her skin. As Toddle takes watch, the snow starts to get heavier as a storm approaches, and he hears something in Calamity's tent. He goes to investigate and finds the interior of the tent shrouded in an impenetrable darkness, lit only by a single candle held by Calamity, who voices his fears about their demon captors. Toddle reassures him that they have been through far worse and made it through relatively unharmed, and as long as they work together, they'll make it through this too. At this, the darkness in Calamity's tent subsides and things return to normal. Before leaving, Toddle gives Calamity a gift of a small whistle that makes an unexpected goose-like sound, and Calamity gives him a hug in return. The wind picks up and reaches bone-chilling levels, but the demons are unbothered. Toddle tries to speak with Saphira, but she is very tight-lipped about the demon's purposes, her answers limited to just 1 or 2 words. She does have a lot of interest in Avaran, though, and Toddle is more than happy to recount Avaran's romantic troubles on the island of Oath. Saphira is much more interested, though, in Avaran's experience fighting demons, but avoids answering any of Toddle's other questions. She does reveal, though, that she worships Braylon, the god of the Hells, who is feared by all. Toddle observes a pack of dire wolves nearby that seem to have caught our scent, but the demons also seem to have noticed them, and their presence keeps them at bay. Saphira assures Toddle that should they attack, she and the demons will kill them. Before going to sleep, Toddle reaches into his bag and pulls out the bottled starfish boil creature that we extracted from the Ratman in Oath, and hands it over to Saphira as a sort of gift. He then wakes up Avaran for his watch. As Avaran takes watch, he also notices the pack of dire wolves nearby. He doesn't see them as a threat, though, so to pass the time, he starts carving a piece of wood with his dagger of warning, while Saphira takes a step closer to get a better look at what he's doing. She then questions the starfish boil about its mission, and it tells her about our time on the Island of Oath, letting her know that it was sent to kill Toddle by Lander, the traitor, who is now a general of Hell's armies. Saphira tells the creature that it failed and crushes it, even as it begs her for mercy. It turns to dust and is scattered to the wind. Saphira approaches Avaran and questions him about who he serves, which he brushes off nonchalantly, and Saphira follows up by asking who he worships. Avaran denies believing in any specific deity, but instead believes in the energies of the earth, the heat of battle, and anything else that makes him feel alive. Saphira pauses at this before walking away, Avaran chuckling under his breath as she leaves. As the sun rises, Calamity and Toddle wake to find the storm has subsided. Blue exits the makeshift cabin and suggests breaking camp and continuing on their journey. Toddle goes over to pet Snowball to wake her, and Calamity goes over to Avaran, who hands him a butterfly carving that he had worked on during the night. The group travels on, the trail becoming more narrow as they leave the open area and enter a grove of birch trees. Avaran hangs back to question the demons about how long they've been with Saphira, but they stay silent, their eyes blank and empty as a void. So he lets it go and continues onward. Meanwhile, Calamity questions Saphira about how familiar she is with the city that we're headed towards. But Saphira avoids the question, commenting that Calamity seems to be afraid of everything, before calling him pathetic and moving on. At that moment, she spots a giant armadillo-like creature off in the distance, and it appears to be prepping for our arrival. Saphira, though, is entirely unconcerned with this and continues to lead the party right towards it. After all, this is her territory. All the while, Toddle has been mixing potions and hasn't even noticed that we're headed toward what we're headed towards until Blue warns the group that there is something huge in the distance. At that moment, the party is assaulted by a barrage of long black quills, one of which impales Snowball's leg. She snaps it in half and pulls her leg off of it, but is still poisoned by it. Avaran spots where the quills came from and casts a shield of faith on himself before drawing both of his swords and rushing forward to attack. The creature is heavily armored, almost like a giant roly-poly, or an unholy poly, if you will. But he cannot see the creature underneath, so he decides to cast a firebolt to try and draw it out. Seeing that fire has no effect on it, Toddle casts Flaming Spear, not smear, on the creature as well, but the creatures around it also catch fire, which Avaran narrowly avoids. Meanwhile, Calamity starts to feel more and more panicked, his fur casting purple sparks. He calms himself for the moment, though, and gathers his energy to cast Hex on the creature, the energy of which coming from a crack in reality. He follows up by attacking the creature with waves of necrotic and force energy. The creature takes these attacks in stride, before then responding in kind. It opens its armor plates to reveal a fleshy being inside, covered in teeth, quills, and claws. Human-like hands come out of its mouth, which is lined with row upon row of sharp teeth, and it uses those hands to drag itself towards Avaran. Rather than specifically attack him first, though, instead the creature makes a psychic attack on everyone in the group. Then it focuses its attention on Avaran and fires a barrage of 40 quills directly at his chest, which are thankfully deflected by his shield of faith. While this all plays out, though, Saphira and the demons just decide to watch and see what happens. Blue pulls out his crossbow and fires a magical flaming arrow at the creature before then casting Hunter's Mark on it. As he does this, Snowball takes the opportunity to heal herself, as she has taken a lot of damage, and she hobbles over to where Calamity and Toddle are. Avaran decides to get serious and makes a vow of enmity on the creature, which focuses his attacks on it. He then lands a critical hit on it with his snake sword, dealing even more fire damage, before following up with another attack. Deciding to keep the pressure on, he digs deep and uses a surge of action to make 2 additional attacks, landing another critical hit. With additional damage from Toddle's flaming spear, the creature is now in very bad shape. Toddle sees an opportunity to get up close and personal with the creature, so he slides under it to try and attack its fleshy underbelly, but the attempt proves to be too difficult given all the gore beneath the creature. Calamity follows up on this by gathering more energy to himself, which shoots to his ears, making them hum like a tuning fork. He then casts Toll the Dead on the creature, making it vibrate and bubble before finally exploding. Bits of teeth, quill, and armor plating being cast out in all directions. In a moment of fright from the explosion, 3 bolts of eldritch energy erupt from Calamity's fur, which each hit Saphira and the 2 other demons. The party freezes, not knowing what's going to happen next. What's going to happen?
Good job, Chris. First episode.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice recap. Very nice.
This was definitely one of my more favorite recent episodes, just because it was an interesting dynamic between us and the demons. You know, we were captured, but they didn't really seem like they were going to hurt us. But at the same time, they also didn't seem like they were going to help us in our battle with them either. And so it was kind of like this big creature we'd never seen before. We were just up against it with no help. I don't know. What were some of your guys' favorite parts of the episode?
So I remember that in that episode, I was rolling so poorly, none of my stuff would work.
Oh yeah, that was rough. That was a rough.
Yeah,
one for
I
you.
remember I rolled so bad I couldn't do anything to this monster, despite the fact that it was like, oh, I could just walk under it and like punch it or something. It probably would have died, but yeah, I remember trying to have Saphira and the demons help, and they're just like, yeah, nah, you go ahead, you do your thing, we're watching. I'm just like fun
needed.
episode for sure. But go
Yeah,
on.
this whole time too, Saphira has been looking for you guys for literally 100 years, ever since you released all of those souls. So at this point, Saphira's like, well, maybe I will find them, maybe I won't. So I don't think Saphira was coming onto you guys thinking that you were anybody really, except detecting that Evren was possibly a paladin. And their ultimate goal was really to take you and harvest every bit of energy you had via torture to gain power for themselves, which is an indicator that is
Yeah, sounds about right.
because of that, or is Saphira just diabolical? Like, we don't know, because Saphira really is tight-lipped about things. But we did meet our first big bad, Saphira, who I'm sure we'll meet again soon. But like, it was a big move, and I was very excited about it. So yeah, it was interesting, the dynamic, because I kind of let Avery decide where the fuck that she was gonna take you guys. So I was curious how that would go, and it went really well. I was excited.
The player was at the very end when the roly-poly died. It was an explosion, and I had Calamity freak out. I did not plan to hit Vera like I did. In my head, because I misheard it. Yes. I heard that I thought I heard that she had 3 demons, like 3 demon lackeys. So when I like did that blast of 3, I was just like, they all go to the demons. I didn't say Saphira's name specifically. I like literally just wanted her to see her like boys get like shot. But then when I realized that it was actually 2 lackeys in Saphira, I was like, well, fuck. I can't take it back. I said what I said. We just gonna have to handle it. So.
To be fair, it's not out of character for Calamity to be suspicious,
Well,
kinda...
yeah, but the thing is, that wasn't Calamity. So it was Calamity, but it wasn't.
Right!
So like, he got scared, and when Calamity gets scared, I think it's been kind of like said in the past, like his powers react on their own, and the thing that dwells within, like always seeks to protect the host, which is him.
Yeah.
So
kind of like the symbiote for Venom.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If it feels in danger, the thing that is making Calamity feel that way has to die or something to that effect. So that's kind of how it goes. But yeah, but that was really exciting.
Now I am curious though. Nate, Butters, neither of you were here for that episode. So what stood out to you, at least from the recap?
I mean, I got my homeboy main character from way back when, a lander remaking a semi of appearance there.
Right.
Hinting that maybe there's more to come.
Yes,
What's happened to him? He's now been stuck serving hell for 100 years. How has he changed? What's going on? What is being a general like,
It ain't easy.
It ain't
Just
easy
to-
being cheesy, man.
I
Just
won't
to
lie,
double
that-
check, Butters, were you throwing up the shocker as a gang sign?
Yeah.
I think it was West Side.
I'm familiar with the West Side, and it generally doesn't involve lowering your ring finger.
Oh, you know what? I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Things are different in hell, all right? Gang signs mean different things.
All right, yeah, man, yeah. No, if anything, I'm intrigued by the big bad.
Yes.
I think I've only been back for 2 or 3 episodes, I think. So I have been fortunate that Anne has not unleashed like the gaping maw of hell on us in those few episodes, but I am slightly terrified as to what grim fate awaits us. I, having stepped away from the campaign and coming back, have not been up against any kind of big bads with
Right.
When
any.
you left,
Going
we were
from, like,
fighting
level
random
8.
unnamed werewolves.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
forest, like-
Yeah.
And yeah.
And the last time that I ran into a bunch of weird cult members, it didn't shake out so hot for me.
No.
Speaking of the big bad, though, I think that's a good segue to our next episode because we meet Saphira, who's, I would say, you do have to get through Saphira to get to this person. And they, after fucking 40-something episodes, finally meet the one that's kind of in charge of it all. So at that, Chris, take it away. Next episode.
Buckle up, everyone, because this one is a doozy. Episode 43, The Happening. Calamity is covered in blood and gore from the unholy poly, frozen in place from what just transpired. And that's the official name. I don't
The
care.
unholy bully.
The unholy
Canon.
bully. It's
Canon.
good. Yeah, it's
Oh,
Totally
it's
canon.
so good.
Near him, Toddle is down on one knee, trying to recover from the damage he took from the explosion as well. Avaran takes this opportunity of shock and confusion to see if he can take control of the situation, and he misty steps behind Saphira, placing his crystal longsword at her throat, and his dagger at the back of her neck where he thinks there might be a hellstone. Saphira smiles as if she was waiting for something like this to happen, and a black fog appears all around her before coalescing into a spiked armor. Her eyes suddenly ablaze. She thrusts her hands out to her side and a massive warhammer suddenly appears. The demons also draw their weapons, readying for the fight. Toddle tries to defuse the situation, but Saphira is already in fight mode and steps forward so that she can swing her hammer around at Avaran. Yellow fire flashes as the hammer strikes home, and Avaran suddenly finds himself hurtling through hell, demons clawing at his flesh. At this, Blue locks his eyes on Saphira, takes aim with his bow, and fires a magical arrow which strikes true. One of the demons pulls out a massive blade and swings for both Blue and Calamity, but Calamity deflects it with chains of dark energy. The strike continues on through a tree and hits Blue hard, nearly piercing his lung. Seeing all of this play out, Calamity starts to panic, sparks crackling all over his fur. Fortunately, his wild magic refuels all of his spent magical energy. He screams at the top of his lungs, and the ground starts to quake, the trees around him reverberating as he summons two dark-tentacled aberrations which attack the demon closest to him. Calamity then unleashes a blast of eldritch energy at the demon, which activates his wild magic, casting a swirl of butterflies and flowers around him. So, you get some of the wild magic one way, you get some of the other. The demon falls dead even as the tree falls next to him, and the other demon sees this and rushes Calamity in a rage, attacking with his own demonic blade. The attack misses, and he follows up with an elbow strike with his other arm, but with incredible agility, Calamity manages to avoid this strike too. While this happens, Saphira throws a hand up towards Blue, Calamity, and his aberrations. Eerily enough, there is a momentary reality glitch in Calamity's favor, causing Saphira's attempted spell to fail. Instead, she whistles and summons a wyvern who lands near her, ready to attack. Snowball struggles to her feet and casts Mass Cure Wounds across the entire team, which brings Avaran back into the fight, as Saphira's attack had taken a lot out of him. At this moment, Avaran hears an unknown voice in his head comforting him as he feels a glass bottle form within his hand. He looks down and sees a supreme healing potion, which he drinks immediately, and he follows up by casting haste on himself. He then locks eyes with Saphira and growls, "All right, let's go, you bitch." He then charges Saphira, using a surge of action to fuel his attacks. He manages to land a critical hit which he imbues with divine energy, smiting Saphira. Her magical armor responds in kind, though, dealing the same amount of damage to Avaran before she then falls to the ground unconscious. Avaran is knocked to his knees, but not out of the fight. At this point, the surrounding landscape goes dark, shadows spreading out from where Saphira landed. The remaining demon stands back and stows his blade, as he knows exactly what will happen next. A figure appears as a wave passes through the darkness, his armored foot crunching in the snow. He is nearly 8 feet tall, wearing a spiked helmet. He raises his armored hand over Saphira's body, and she is lifted upward, hovering in midair. She is drawn into a ball of power, which he then floats above the stranger's hand. He slowly approaches the party as an unseen force pulls them to the ground. He then speaks in a low, guttural tone in a language that none of them recognizes. He speaks only 4 words before then vanishing from the area, leaving the party with the remaining demon. Saphira remains for a moment in a ghostly form. Snowball staggers to her feet, dazed from the stranger's spell. She hobbles over to Avaran and touches his hand with her paw, healing him. As she does this, though, black liquid starts to flow from her mouth and nose. Avaran desperately tries to find some way to help her, but his healing powers have no effect. Blue comes to his feet and charges the ghostly form of Saphira, but his attack passes right through her body with no effect. Calamity is face down, screaming into the snow, and then suddenly a dark force from Calamity's own shadow lifts him up to his feet. As this happens, the world around him starts to alter and change uncontrollably as a rumbling growl starts to get louder and louder. Saphira is the only one who knows what this rumbling growl is actually, this humbling growl is actually a dark voice saying, "Hunger," over and over again. The aberrations that Calamity summoned earlier then suddenly turn towards Saphira and charge her in a savage attack that also has no effect. Calamity's eyes suddenly start to glow a deep red as tendrils start to reach out all around him. His ears vibrate and hum once again as he makes a powerful psychic attack against Saphira's ghostly form. Even this has no effect, though, as Saphira's ghostly hand reaches towards Avaran. Nothing happens, though, as she fades away into nothingness. The silence that follows is almost unsettling, as snow gently starts to fall. Snowball looks at her paws covered in black liquid, and she starts to get weaker and weaker. Blue turns to look at her, and his face is covered in black liquid that is also flowing from his mouth and nose. Snowball slumps lifelessly to the ground, and Blue takes a few steps towards her before falling dead as well. Unknown to the party, but elsewhere throughout the world, several others begin to drop one by one. The firebulg from the tavern in the woods, the demon shopkeeper in hell, and so on and so on. The remaining demon stands at attention, and Avaran approaches him wondering what exactly they should do with him. Before he can decide, though, he notices that Calamity appears to be floating in midair as space and reality are bending all around him. Calamity launches a black sphere of dark energy directly at the demon, who rather than try to avoid it just stands in place and takes the full force of the blast. He is knocked to his knees, and as Calamity's aberrations begin to approach the demon, Avaran stands in their path and calls out to Calamity, asking him to hold the attack as they may still have use for this demon. The aberrations pause as they prepare to attack, and Avaran hears an otherworldly voice say, Avaran drops his weapons and holds his hands at his sides, showing that he is no threat to Calamity, but also making it clear that if Calamity wants to attack the demon, he'll have to attack Avaran first. Toddle asks Calamity if he's okay, and the otherworldly voice responds, "Hurt." Avaran takes a deep breath to steel his resolve and slowly steps forward towards Calamity, between the two aberrations, raising one hand to touch him and cast Cure Wounds. It doesn't feel like Calamity, though. It feels cold, less like physical contact, but more like pressure. The dark energy slowly recedes and withdraws into Calamity, his body falling into Avaran's arms, and the aberrations shriek and fall to the ground, now nothing more than tree bark and dirt. Avaran then lays his hand on Calamity's chest and imbues him with the rest of his healing power, which ultimately brings Calamity back to the present and his dark energies subside. Averan turns to the matter at hand and asks Toddle to search Blue and Snowball's bodies for anything useful while he goes to interrogate the remaining demon. Unfortunately, the demon remains silent, so Averan uses the scrying power that was granted to him by the Earth God Tiago to go into the demon's mind and see if he can gather any helpful information. He sees a flash of images, including Saphira's birth, some of the events of her life, the search for the Hellraisers over the last 100 years, and other events. He focuses his power to see if he can specifically find the location of the city and how to get in, and he's able to gather some bits and pieces that give him just enough to go off of. With that, Averan breaks the connection with the demon, draws his sword, and removes its head from its body with a divine smite. With Toddle's assistance, he then proceeds to use his dagger to remove the Hellstone from each demon. They then build a pyre for their fallen comrades, and each say some words to honor them. As the sun sets, the party makes camp, needing the night to recover from the events that have transpired. During the night, Toddle dreams of Lander, and as Averan stares into the fire, he hears a clattering coming from Calamity's tent. He goes to see if everything is okay and finds that many of the items of the bag of holding are scattered around Calamity, who is clearly troubled by everything that happened that day. Averan calms him down in his own paladin way, and boosts Calamity's spirits before leaving him with the butterfly carving that he gave him. Calamity sleeps and dreams of an earlier part of the quest where he, Toddle, Lander, and Fancy are sitting in a tavern and enjoying each other's company. Averan returns to the fire, and as he silently stares into the flame, he suddenly experiences a vision. He finds himself amidst the chaos of a giant battle, standing atop a tower looking down at the carnage below. He sees Calamity at the peak of his powers, his magic defeating enemies by the dozens. Elsewhere, he sees Toddle using his god-given powers to teleport around the battlefield, throwing grenades, taking out groups of adversaries, and even a dragon. Then he sees a third figure that he doesn't recognize, who is standing very still, but somehow seems to be destroying everything around him, or her. And as he looks down at his hands, Averan sees energy coming out of them, almost giving him the ability to control the elements, it would seem, before he suddenly finds himself back in front of the fire as it crackles in the stillness of the night. Thoughts? And you're muted.
God damn it. This was a huge episode and a lot happened, and I wanted this to kind of foreshadow what they're about to face. Not only did they see the big bad, the all the characters kind of dying around them was actually a curse that he granted on anyone who's ever helped them in the past, anyone who's ever given them food or water or direction or fought with them died in that moment if they were still alive. Devastating curse, but these dreams were supposed to be, I think, kind of a sign from all the other powers that be, or even all of those who died just then, telling them that it was okay, that they should continue their journey. And Lander, the dream that Toddle had was, if I remember, Toddle was sleeping on that island and kind of woke up in the middle of the night in a stir, and Calamity was still asleep in the bed next to him, and you kind of reached over and laid your hand on him, and kind of in a more comfort grip. And then Toddle was first a little bit alarmed, but then woke up very comforted.
Yeah, it was a comforting thing. I remember that.
Now, personally, I am really looking forward to the moment that we find out the extent of that curse, because as the characters are aware, it only affected Blue and Snowball. And so I'm waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Yeah, that's going to be mortifying.
Yeah, it's
the
gonna
good
be a
news,
tough one.
The good news is I can kind of sort of bring people back to life. Kind of, sort of ish. I have Revivify, but I don't know if that's within a minute or something, but maybe...
Yeah, I think the wording of the spell is that they have to have died within the last minute.
A minute. I was like, that'd be so cool if I could bring them back to life, but it would like take like a day or something for me to like figure it out.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the best way to figure out Revivify is it's basically like, just clear,
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah.
try digging up a corpse in a graveyard and doing that. See how it works.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
won't go over very well, so never mind. But yeah, that'll be really devastating to hear about all the rest of the folks that have helped us. I mean, I feel like a lot of them already have died or are in hell, so it's like, what are you gonna do? But yeah, doesn't mean we can't make new friends that can help us. Just saying, and that happens.
That are
So
currently alive.
that are
just
currently
kinda-
alive. Just saying.
Just kind of
Well,
withhold
the question
fact.
is it like as soon as they help, like the person, like they'll just turn around and walk away, and the person will be like,
That's
Don't
another
know.
thing we don't know is if it's going to have effects on
Yeah.
future friendships that we make. Because
Yeah.
if so, man, the friends that we made in that last couple episodes,
Oh, Koa, King of the Mountain.
mhm.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I.
Um,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna comment on the fact that that was I think Calamity has definitely lost control numerous times. But I think this was a really good instance. Was this when we started doing chat involvement with Calamity's bad luck blitzes?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
this is when chat intervened and is the reason Saphira died.
Yeah.
Was
So
injured.
Pig killed Saphira. Okay. Pig killed Saphira. Pig was rolling natty 20s. Okay, it's all good.
So
Everyone's like, God damn it.
chat's direct involvement changed the whole story, and that's just the little taste of what chat can do to really get involved with the campaign. Really.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I want to say that I think that was the first time that I really let
The void.
the void, the creature that dwells within, like take over.
Mhm.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot for it to step forward beyond just doing things on its own inside, like when you see Calamity's first sparks and something happens that he wasn't planning to do or anything, like that's the entity. I so enjoyed going to the dark place.
Yeah.
Now all of my friends know me, like they know me, like I'm Mr. Sunshine Boy, like I'm not like horribly into horror and like all the dark stuff and whatever.
Right.
But like I respect it, and I on Halloween I love it and stuff like that. But I think I said before that I kind of try to do a lot of research for this character Calamity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes something devastating for the other entity to like kind of like step forward and just like take control. And I really enjoyed that. I don't want to say I've been waiting for it, but I was like, ooh, I have ideas.
Right. It
and-
just
and-
continues from there. It's a spiral.
We love someone who's inspired by the character. We love it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But,
And yeah,
yeah.
GW, yeah, you're like the I remember you came in, you're like, I'm the one who's like not like trying to be horror, but also like here's Calamity, he is possessed by the void. Here you go. Crazy shit's happening.
Right.
There's things,
Like I'm
but-
over here with Toddle and tragic backstory.
No, we love that.
Oh, totally.
like,
But yeah.
I loved that was like kind of like the real first taste of
What
Calamity.
could be. Yeah.
So-
What could be. The power we're trying to control and harness.
Anxiety personified.
Right.
exactly.
Exactly.
And also, Chris, awesome job with like the deep, scary voices. I was feeling that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
cool
wanted to
roleplays
try
are
and
legit.
recapture what you had done in the episode.
Thank you. But
Speaking
We
of,
roleplay.
let's move on to
All right.
episode 44.
Episode 44, Expect the Unexpected.
Boy.
After the crazy vision that Avaran just had, he decides to call it a night and wakes Toddle for his watch. Toddle wakes up in positive spirits as his dream was much more pleasant. As Avaran goes to sleep, Toddle goes to check on Calamity and finds that he's sleeping soundly. Toddle spends his watch tinkering and notices an owl catching some prey for its dinner, which it then brings back to a tree to eat. He also senses a magical aura on the armor of one of the demons, which feels as if it's transmutation magic. He decides to keep the demon's giant sword, which he also detects has magical qualities. Happy with his discovery, Toddle wakes Calamity for his watch. They talk to each other about the pleasant dreams they had, which makes them yearn for a simpler time. As Toddle goes back to sleep, Calamity starts his watch and eats a snack to pass the time. When suddenly he hears wings from above, the force of which casts out the loose snow in a wave. What settles down next to him is a large bat-like creature that seems to want nothing more than to just enjoy the warmth of the fire with Calamity. A little uncomfortable having this creature so close to him, Calamity relocates to the other side of the fire so he can keep an eye on it. He even works up the courage to talk to it, but it doesn't respond, so he decides to try and feed it some of his snack. It doesn't seem to be hungry though, so Calamity decides to inch back over to where he was before and sit down next to the creature, deciding to enjoy its company in silence. It sleeps for a bit, and when it wakes, it chirps and stretches out its wings and takes off into the sky, headed in the opposite direction of where they're going. As Toddle and Avaran both wake up, Calamity tells them about his nocturnal visitor. Avaran jokes that Calamity is lucky he wasn't the creature's dinner, and then goes over and tries on the demon's armor to see how he likes the fit. It's heavy, but also sturdy, so he decides to wear it for the time being. He then asks the group how they slept and listens to each of them describe their dreams before letting them know about his vision that he had that night. He describes it in detail, and they each like what they hear about how powerful they may end up being, though in typical Calamity fashion, he starts to get nervous about the thought of such a giant battle. The party then packs up to continue on their journey, but as they're talking to each other, a snow snake sneaks up and bites Calamity in the ass. Toddle sees this as the perfect opportunity to test out his new sword, but unfortunately, he's not trained on how to use it. Calamity's wound starts to ooze a black, greasy goo, which makes Toddle slip, so his attempt to hit such a small target with such an unwieldy weapon proves unsuccessful. Avaran throws his dagger to pin the snake in place, which gives Toddle a second chance to attack the snake, and he splits it in half with the heavy sword. After a delayed start, the party sets off towards the temple ruins. Avaran recalls what he saw in the demon's mind and tells the party that they should head toward the ominous peak in the distance. As they travel, Toddle starts to veer off course, taking them into an area thick with trees. Avaran smells wood burning off in the distance, indicating that there would be a small camp ahead of us. With his new armor, Avaran doesn't feel he would be able to sneak up quietly on whoever's ahead of us, so he suggests to Toddle that he scout ahead instead. Meanwhile, Calamity is nowhere to be seen. Toddle casts invisibility on himself and moves forward, eventually coming across a dog taking a leak on the tree. He follows it back to a camp with a single man sitting by a fire and reading a book. As he peeks from behind a tree, without looking up, the man beckons Toddle to join him. Toddle is hesitant at first, but once the man assures him that he is no ally of the demons, Toddle lifts the invisibility spell and sits next to him. The man introduces himself as Devin and says he wasn't expecting to run into us so soon, which Toddle doesn't really seem to catch, being more excited to talk about the man's dog. Toddle shows Devin some of his drawings of other creatures he has come across in his travels, and they trade notes with each other. The stranger seems to know more about Toddle than he lets on, but before Toddle can learn much more about him, Devin starts to pack up to leave. Before he does, though, Toddle asks for directions to the temple or a nearby town, to which Devin points him in the right direction. At this point, Calamity falls out of the bush he was hiding in, and Devin's dog gets very excited and runs over to him. Calamity panics and starts screaming, as he does, which causes Avaran to rush forward, expecting a fight. Devin laughs at this and nods to Avaran, and then he says he has to deliver a message from a lot of people who really care about us. and that he assures us he's taking good care of them. He douses his fire, causing a plume of smoke to rise through the air, and as the smoke disappears, so too does Devon. Calamity is speechless at this, now thinking that they may have been in the presence of the god of light and death, who was believed by some to be dead. He tells us that this god typically guides people to the afterlife, so he finds it unsettling that we just met him. At that moment, though, Avaran feels himself drawn to the hammock that Devon left behind and reaches down to find a hunting knife that has the emblem of Westfall, the village where Avaran grew up, etched into its sheath. On the blade itself, it says, "With regards," which puzzles him. He swings it a few times to get a feel for it before attaching it to his belt opposite his dagger of warning, and also decides to cut down the skins and leathers that Devon left behind to keep them in case it gets even colder. They walk back to the path that Devon indicated and continue on their journey. They continue to talk about their experience of meeting a god, but Avaran isn't as impressed as toddler Calamity, commenting that this is about the fourth god that they've met now. Calamity reminds him that Devon is supposed to have been gone since the war, and it's a big deal that he's not, and that they got to meet him, which eventually changes Avaran's mind. They enter a clearing, and they are struck by a blast of snow and ice. Avaran raises his shield to block himself and his companions, and they continue on until they come across the temple ruins, which look to have once been a large cathedral. There is a statue of a firebolg in a robe and holding a staff. This reminds Calamity of stories he's heard of cultists, but the firebolg appears to be different. Calamity starts to search the ruins to see if he can find any doors or entrances, and meanwhile, Avaran finds a stack of old books and some vials of holy water. Calamity then finds some arrows outside that appear newer than the one we originally found before, indicating that someone has been here very recently. But suddenly he is struck in the back of the shoulder by one of these arrows and is so startled by this that his magic goes haywire, making him unable to speak. Instead, nothing but a stream of black bubbles emerging from his mouth. This startles him even further, and he is sucked into a black hole, reappearing moments later near Toddle, who is at a loss for how to help his friend. He then turns and sees a random wall of snow that appears to break apart and expose the creature behind, with the body of a centipede, but the torso and head of a man, and 6 arms holding 3 bows and arrows. The creature fires at Toddle, and the snow around it starts to solidify into ice spears, which it throws at Toddle as well. Hearing the commotion, Avaran turns and sees the monstrosity charging his friends, so he runs towards it, hurling a firebolt at it. He then channels his divinity and makes a vow of enmity against the creature to focus all future attacks on it. Knowing that casting spells is futile right now, Calamity instead takes out his crossbow and fires at the creature. Meanwhile, Toddle tries to attack with his new sword, but he still hasn't gotten the hang of it, so the attack misses. He decides to cast Sanctuary on himself instead. The creature makes the ground around him harden with a deep red ice that spreads out in a 30-foot radius and hits all of us with necrotic damage. It then also tries to devour Toddle, but his Sanctuary spell protects him, so it focuses on Calamity instead. Seeing that his friends are in danger, Avaran draws his snake sword and rushes the creature, unleashing a flurry of attacks which stagger it. Calamity takes the opportunity to create a doorway to the beyond within a small point on his chest, which unleashes a cosmic fireball on the creature and everyone around it, causing Toddle to fall to the ground. All Toddle has to do is get back to his feet and down a healing potion. Still raging at the onslaught from Avaran, the creature charges him and grabs him, trying to find a weak point in his armor, while simultaneously trying to suffocate him with his ice magic. Avaran, however, is able to avoid the magical attack and summons the strength to break the creature's grip. He then pushes off his back foot to make an upward slash along the creature's torso, which he imbues with divine energy, and then follows up with a divinely powered downward slash. Severely wounded, the creature tries to retreat, giving Avaran the opportunity to make a final attack. He summons even more divine energy into the strike, and the creature's head is severed clean off of its body before it falls to the ground. So a little bit shorter recap for that one, but Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite creatures that we fought so far, just because
Yeah.
the imagery of it, it definitely gives me an icky feeling.
Yeah, right. The freaking 3 bow and arrows, that was nutty. That was so nutty. Like if you're gonna have a crazy monster creature campaign that's horror themed, of course you're gonna have these like guttural, crazy looking things with many appendages who hold many objects. So you could be fighting one enemy, but it has like the attack advantage of like 5 different characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Well,
like
what was funny was because I think at that time I was able to pick from 2 different battle blitzes. But I picked the bubbles thing because I just thought it would be it would just be a little funny, you know.
Yeah.
Not knowing that we were about to instantly get into battle, and I was like, oh, I can't talk now. Well, I fucked myself.
Yeah. The
But
bubbles.
I think it was still really fun because like besides the crossbow, the only thing that I could fight with were my bad luck blitzes from the chat. Like that was like kind of like the only thing that I could do. So but no, that was a very interesting monstrosity creature.
Yeah,
Not to mention. Oh, go ahead.
You had a little bit of everything in there too. Like you met another god.
Yep. There we go.
Got a message from your dead friends, and then you also fought this creature. And to be honest, I was working with centipedes all weekend. I created him, and I was like, you know what? I hate these. I'm putting him in my campaign.
Art
They
imitating
totally-
life.
Yeah, they totally aren't. What's it called? That not horror themed in themselves. That they already are added into the campaign as just one little centipede. No. These are like have 3 different weapons, have freaking crazy faces, have
Magic.
like magic, yeah.
And a quick question to you, Anne. Because clearly the god's name wasn't Devin. He just called himself Devin, like in his human form.
That's right.
Did you pick that name because, like, were you inspired by a certain person for that?
Nope.
Okay.
I just wanted an average like human name, dude.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know.
Because we both know what Devin,
Bile.
so I didn't know if that was like any kind of inspiration. But okay. Cool.
No inspo there. I was just like, what's this? I didn't want to call him something too basic like Matt. I don't know.
Matt. This high fantasy setting, but also Matt. No, speaking real quick, just a tiny little backtrack. I have here a name, and I wanted to make sure that it was the correct name. Is our big bad Braylon?
No.
Braylon
is the god of hell.
Of the hells, yeah.
Yeah, he's god of all the hells, the Leonin. Okay, so he's not the big bad. He's just one of the many gods.
Yeah, like I don't think anyone on Earth can kill Braylon.
Gotcha. Okay.
With their bare hands.
Okay, then we're
Well,
not.
that's
killing
why I
them.
have a sword.
I know, right?
Fair.
Okay, so I had Braylon on there, and I wanted to make sure that wasn't who Saphira was communicating with, or maybe was, I don't know. But then I also had Devin, and that was the god. I want to make sure that they were all in the correct lane for me.
Yeah, y'all don't know his name yet, except probably Butters or Lander.
Right. Yeah, other than that, very, very fun flavor conversation and having little campfires and discovering things and going down a hatch and all that.
Yep.
Right?
Well,
we're
We
getting
haven't
to
done that
that.
part. We haven't done that
I was
part.
going to say,
Yeah.
speaking of going down hatches, let's move on to episode 45, a sacrificial calamity.
Oh, real quick.
Yes.
And you got the wish spell. Was that?
In this next episode.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry. My notes, I usually break them apart, and this one is just all one note. So okay.
Because we go to the ruins twice, which is why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, continue.
So, episode 45, a sacrificial calamity. In the wake of the battle, Avaran changes out of his new armor as he found it to be a little too cumbersome, and he goes back to searching through the ruins to see if there are any other human centipedes waiting to attack. While he does this, Toddle tries to salvage whatever resources he can from the creature, and then focuses on trying to solve Calamity's dilemma. He racks his brain, but try as he might, he cannot find a potion or ability that will bring Calamity's voice back to normal. Toddle advises him to use his little wooden whistle for the time being to signal the party whenever he needs their help. Calamity starts to look around as well and finds an area where there is a rug that covers what may be a set of stairs that have long been buried by dirt and rock. Calamity signals for the party to come over to where he is, and he puts on his black mask to better see the room and look for any magic. The mask makes the Firebulg statue look almost alive, as if the statue is actually a Firebulg that was turned to stone. Still unable to speak, he tugs on Toddle's robe and puts the mask on his face so that he can see the Firebulg as well. Avaran takes a turn with the mask, and seeing this, he casts Remove Curse on the statue in the hopes of bringing the Firebulg back to normal. What happens instead is the Firebulg grips the staff harder, and beams of light start to shine from between its fingers as well as out of its eyes. The stone starts to crumble, and the staff falls forward with a heavy thud. But the Firebulg they saw beneath is no longer there. They look at the staff and it appears to have carvings all along it, and they decide to hold on in case they ever find Vera. As Avaran turns to speak to Toddle, he is suddenly thrown 50 feet backward and lands on his back. As he gathers himself, he finds a crystal floating near his hand, and no matter how hard he tries, he can't seem to grab it or move it. Upon further examination, it appears to be pulsing with magic, so Avaran casts Detect Evil and Good, but to no avail. He then brings it to his ear and hears a humming sound, which he then lets Toddle listen to, and Toddle identifies that the crystal contains a wish spell. However, he has read that the crystal would normally be clear, and this one is a cloudier, milky tone. Toddle worries that the crystal could attract unwanted attention, so he decides to cover it with blood to make it look less obvious, and maybe even a tad threatening. The party then notices that it is starting to get dark. Despite this, Toddle almost seems to want to take advantage of the fact that Calamity can't object, and suggests that the party continues on. Avaran hacks through the branches of the trees as they walk, as the other two party members can easily walk below them. Calamity's voice finally comes back to him, and he asks why we are deciding to journey through the dark rather than make camp. And Toddle explains that it was ultimately his decision to push forward and get as close to the city as possible, maybe even being able to sneak in under the cover of darkness. Calamity feels that we may have left something unexplored at the temple, but without much further discussion on the matter, he then starts to hear voices echoing in the forest around us. He points his ears in all directions, and is eventually able to zero in on the direction in which the voices are coming from. He points, and we all look to see a woman in a light-colored dress standing about 200 feet away, with her back to us. Calamity is unsettled by this, but Toddle's curiosity gets the better of him, and he calls out to her. Toddle then hears the voice whisper, "Hello," in his ear. The woman then starts reciting dozens of names, each one different from the last. She then turns to reveal she has no mouth and has dark voids for eyes, and then vanishes from sight. She then reappears in different parts of the woods and starts walking off, so Toddle decides to follow her to find out where she's headed. Calamity and Avaran begrudgingly follow Toddle, fairly certain that we're headed towards nothing good. Avaran even jokingly bets with Toddle that should things, go sideways, maybe Toddle gives him about 100 platinum or so. The woman leads us into a much denser part of the forest until they come to a circle of trees around an open area roughly 30 feet wide. Avaran notices symbols painted on 3 of the trees, indicating that some dark sacrificial rituals have been performed here in the past. Toddle asks the ghost lady why she has brought us here, and she turns to silently stare at us as the wind dies down. Toddle asks if the ghost lady has any negative intentions towards us, and she turns back around and vanishes. At this, Avaran casts Detect Evil and Good, and while the area they're in gives off some incredibly evil vibes, the ghost lady's energy is neutral. Far off in the distance, Avaran also feels an incredibly strong presence of an aberration. Meanwhile, seeing the symbols on the trees, Calamity is reminded of the rituals that have been performed on him in the past, and he proceeds to fall into an intense panic and loses control of his magic, the 3 trees with symbols suddenly bursting in flames. The glow of the fires around him brings back images in his mind of hunters and goblins, and Calamity descends further into the recesses of his mind, the blackness within emerging to engulf him. Avaran walks up to Calamity and tries to snap him out of it by slapping him across the face, but he is blown away from Calamity by a wave of thunder. The dark energy surrounding Calamity then cause Toddle to feel an intense fear, and he starts to run away, before eventually coming to his senses. He starts to look for the ghost woman and begins to see her face all around him in different parts of the trees surrounding them. Toddle and Avaran agree that while they try to focus on calming Calamity down, they should also be trying to dispel whatever curse is on this place. Avaran takes a bottle of holy water and pours a trail of it around the entirety of the circle, and while he disrupts the dark energies of it, they don't disappear entirely. Toddle comes up with a clever idea of how to bring Calamity out of his panic attack, and he infuses one of his butterflights with lavender scent to remind Calamity of his home and releases it. Before it can get to Calamity, though, it turns completely black and starts shaking and malfunctioning. Meanwhile, the heat from the flames starts to melt the snow on the ground, revealing a hatch of some kind. Avaran opens the hatch to see if there's anything useful inside that can help Calamity, and instead finds dozens of skeletons with various gear and weapons about them. He closes the hatch and then hears the ghost lady's shrieks on the air. Calamity's mind begins to draw inward, and he sees flashes of his mother, his father, his black crystal, a riot within his hometown, and then himself running. The dark tentacles of his expanding shadow start to lash out at anything around him, one of them locking onto Toddle and Avaran and draining energy from them. Avaran heals himself and ignites the flames on his snake sword once again and tries to press the flaming blade to Calamity's leg to snap him out of his trance, but the energies surrounding Calamity prevent the blade from making contact. And in fact, Calamity's darkness begins to draw in everything around him, and Avaran does everything he can to prevent himself from being sucked into the oblivion. To prevent himself from being sucked in as well, Toddle draws out his giant demon sword and plunges the blade into the ground so that he may hide behind it. At this moment, reality itself begins to crack around Calamity, and unknown energy seeps from the cracks into this world. A wave of chaotic energy shoots out in all directions, and Toddle is protected from it by his sword. Avaran, however, is not so lucky, and the chaotic energy from Calamity strikes him with a lightning bolt that knocks him unconscious. Toddle sees his ally fall and speaks a healing word to revive him. As he does this, though, he starts to see the darkness around Calamity take form into many different faces, which Toddle discerns are the faces of those that have hunted Calamity in his past. Toddle then sees the cracks in reality as they continue to grow in size, and Avaran wakes to see Toddle get hit with a wave of force damage from Calamity. As he rises to his feet, Avaran hears the faint sound of Calamity muttering to himself in denial of the scene around him. Avaran calls out to Calamity and assures him that they are his friends and that they are not trying to hurt him and that he needs to snap out of whatever is happening in his mind. His voice cuts through the chaos, and all at the same time, the faces around Calamity freeze and turn to look at Avaran with their glowing white eyes. Before all at once, everything that emerged from Calamity's darkness is withdrawn back into it. In the back of his mind, Avaran also notices that the presence of the aberration in the distance has now disappeared. As Calamity collapses to the ground, Avaran and Toddle rush forward and bring their friend into a reassuring embrace, trying to soothe him. As the party takes a beat, they all simultaneously come to the conclusion that it is time for this madness to end. At this, the ghost lady fades away, never to be seen by us again. The 3 flaming trees fall to the ground, and the group agrees to return to the temple where it is safe. So talking about some darkness within Calamity, got a double dose of it in that one.
And this is where I wanted to bring just a good old classic ghost enemy story. I'm like, I haven't done a ghost yet.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
That was clearly I didn't know that was gonna happen. Like sacrificial places, bad mojo, buddy, bad mojo for the rabbit, and
He was triggered.
It went places.
Super triggered. But yeah, I'm so happy that I'm playing with you guys because I'm sure not, all groups would maybe have the patience to deal with their own teammate kind of going haywire. But I'm really happy that you guys kind of like went with it, and I feel like it made for like some really good RP, like that whole, I want to say like that whole like interaction or encounter. I felt like it made some really good RP, and you got kind of like without me having to say it really, or I guess without Calamity having to say it, like you got kind of like a piece of what's on his mind, his past. I don't like, the team knows that he can't go home. The team knows that he was exiled, but I don't know if the team knows why. But yeah, that was
Crimes against humanity.
that was something.
Calamity, shut
Violations
up.
of the Geneva Convention.
Being a Harangon, apparently. That's the crime, apparently. It's just being a Harangon. But also, like, having special powers, too, on top of that. That's all the reason for all the stuff. Like, just so much stuff happening to poor Calamity.
Yeah.
Toddle and Everin just sit there like... that was basically that episode, was us sitting there like, okay, let's try everything we can to make sure that we can get him back to normal. And it was like, okay.
It got like literally this close to me wondering, like, are we gonna have to have rabbit stew for dinner that night?
Yeah.
Oh God!
Because I mean, had we not been able to
resuscitate,
subdue your dark energies and bring you back to normal, it would have been a fight for our lives.
Sure, you're not wrong. In this world.
My favorite quote of that episode was from Toddle. Calamity, you goofing! You straight goofing!
You straight goofing! Calamity was literally running through the woods with a fucking sword, like, Calamity, you goofing!
You goofing!
The fuck is happening?
Calamity, though.
Did anyone clip that?
I did really appreciate the episode, though, because, I mean, Toddle and Avran know exactly how hard it is to exist in this world, know? And y'all don't have anybody else. You're in a strange place, and you've lost people either in this 100 years or even before that. So it's like, Calamity's all you got. And the fact that you can tame this kind of darkness is exactly why you're the chosen ones in the story.
Exactly. And and there's just no like, none of us have family, or this is a dark freaking harsh world where people are betraying us and people be killing one another and demons are coming for you, like, if you have any ounce of anything.
Vera has the monastery and everything's chill.
Okay. Vera's true.
Chilling.
That's true. Vera's the hope that we need.
And then it reminds me of when Toddle lost Lander and was like dealing with having raised this kid, and then all of a sudden, well, first of all, not having him anymore and not knowing what he's going through and the anxiety for it, and Toddle being, I argue, as tight-lipped as Saphira, and just the rest of the team kind of gathering around Toddle and being like, hey, like, you still got us, it's okay. And I feel like, I don't know, it just reminded me of that moment. It was a nice team bonding experience, even though Calamity went fucking crazy. So
Yeah. Now, to Butter's point about the monastery, I swear to God, if we find Vera just like kicking back in a monastery, sipping on tea and reading a book, I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
Talk to Anne.
Talk to Anne.
Talk to the hand.
Speaking of the monastery, you want to go into the next one, Chris?
Let's go.
Yeah, one more and then we'll take our break.
Sounds good.
Nice.
All right. This one is called episode 46, Playing with Guns. As they journey back towards the temple, Avaran calls out to Toddle, asking him if he'd like to settle their bet from earlier. Toddle withdraws a bag of coins from his pack, but rather than just hand it to Avaran, he tosses it off into the distance. Avaran rolls his eyes at this and uses Mage Hand for the first time to catch the bag in midair and bring it back. Calamity then suggests that before they go too far, they should go back and see if the hole beneath the hatch contains anything that could be of use to us. I'm seeing a trend there in Calamity. It's like, hey, let's go this way. Wait, maybe we should go back. No, let's go this way. Let's go back first. I don't know. He decides to stay outside of the circle, though, as Toddle and Avaran get a better look, and he takes out the whistle that Toddle made for him. Avaran keeps watch while Toddle drops down into the hole, and after searching for several minutes, Toddle finds several weapons, gear, jewelry, all of which he deposits into the bag of holding. Before he can climb back out, though, he feels something take hold of his ankle and pull him down. Toddle and Avaran each look back to find some sort of six-legged rat-dog hybrid creature at the end of Toddle's leg. They each attack the creature, causing it to screech in pain and scurry away. Rather than take a share of the loot, Avaran instead gets Toddle to agree to take the demon armor and use it to reinforce his old shield and breastplate. Once they've packed everything, they resume their trek back to the temple. As they walk, Calamity's curiosity about Avaran's crystal gets the better of him, and he uses his magic to try and take it. And while he is able to turn it black, he can't take it more than 2 feet from Avaran before it returns to where it's bound. Upon their arrival at the temple, the party makes camp. Calamity then looks at his own black crystal within his bracelet and speaks to Toddle about potentially empowering it for him so he can better focus his magic. Toddle explains, though, that it would require an incredible amount of magic from Calamity, which he is currently depleted of. Knowing he won't be able to complete this task tonight, Toddle instead gets to work on strengthening Avaran's armor. As Toddle works, Avaran asks about Calamity's crystal and whether his father, who he inherited it from, also had magical abilities. Calamity says that he is actually the first Harengon in his family to ever have the ability to control magic, which puzzles Avaran. Why would his family pass down a spell-focusing crystal if none of them ever had any magical ability? He then tells about how there is a fey magic weaved through everything where he is from, and that there are always a trail of butterflies that followed his mother. Avaran suggests to Calamity that his mother may have had some magical abilities, since he has also seen Calamity conjure butterflies. Calamity is a bit taken aback by this, having never really made the connection, as it seems like a normal, everyday thing for his mother. Avaran then ponders whether maybe the crystal lost its magic over time, only to be brought back by the emergence of Calamity's powers, to which Calamity responds with all of his knowledge about his people's history, including ninja bunnies. My favorite part. Avaran begins to tell Calamity a bit about his own childhood, assuring him that the tavern he lived above and that his mother was killed outside of was nothing like the Lavender Fields. As he begins to talk about how he then grew up on the streets, Calamity asks Avaran about his father. Avaran explains that his father was a human and his mother was an elf, hence why he is of mixed blood. He goes on to say that this union was why her family, the Windstriders, cast her out for good, which comes as a shock to Calamity. And so Avaran explains his mother left her family for love before his father then left her for the sea, as many sailors can't handle being landlocked for terribly long. Avaran finishes his story by saying that in all of his travels he has never seen or heard tale of his father. Toddle continues working through the night and spies an owl flying, which eventually perches on a tree branch and eats its most recent kill. As the sun rises, Toddle makes his last strike of the hammer and finishes his work on Avaran's shield and armor. As the light hits their tents, Calamity and Avaran awake and join Toddle. Toddle points to the owl, which is still there, and says it's been watching him all night, before he then stumbles off to make himself some breakfast. While he does this, Calamity and Avaran continue to look around the ruins to see if they can find anything new, and something catches Calamity's attention. He notices that some of the pieces of rubble have what look to be parts of a larger picture on them, as if perhaps there was a fresco painting on the ceiling. The party gets to work overturning the pieces of rubble and tries to put them together to reveal the whole picture. It takes them quite a while, but eventually it is revealed that this painting depicts an eclipse and a group of people in robes, possibly followers of Shar, worshipping a Harengon. Toddle asks if Calamity has any insight into what this image may mean, but he is very confused and frankly uncomfortable to see something like this. While we were putting the puzzle together, we also noticed a footprint that appears to be the same size as Vera's. Whoever left it appears to have been headed in the direction of the mountains. Avaran asks if Calamity's people knew anything about a ritual like the painting depicts, and he said that his people don't like eclipses because it's when dimensions merge and cross over, which can be very dangerous. Calamity has even very nearly been sacrificed during a couple eclipses, but he's unaware of whether any of those people were Shar worshippers. Avaran then starts to put some pieces together about the recent course of events, and it starts to look like Vera may have ulterior motives in regards to Calamity. They agree that there are definitely questions that they'll need to ask Vera when they find them again, and they pack up camp so that they can head in the direction that the footprint is headed. Calamity then pulls out the revolver that's been inside the bag of holding for quite some time, which is thankfully not loaded. As we head off, the owl watches us until we disappear into the distance. We see two options ahead of us, either climbing up a cliff face for a couple days or going overland, or traveling through a crevice in the mountain which may provide more cover or possibly contain unseen threats. Avaran decides to summon his falcon, Niam, and use his scrying abilities so that he can scout ahead. Niam takes flight and heads down the crevice, and spies a path that they can take along the right side of it. The trench looks like it will take a couple days to walk through, and there is a break in the path of about 6 meters that looks like the rocks crumbled and fell below. Niam also starts to feel like she is being engulfed in darkness all around, so she beats her wings as fast as she can in order to return to the party. Before returning to her locket, she warns Avaran to beware the Hall of Shadows. Avaran relays this to his comrades, and Toddle comes up with many different ways that they can get across the gap in the path, so they decide the crevice is still the best way to go, and they set off on the next leg of their journey. They are met with a strong gust of icy winds that threatens to knock them off the trail into the abyss below. The way before them is so dark that Avaran draws his crystal longsword and ignites the radiant energy within to light the way, which reveals a herd of large mountain goats and their babies that begin to walk alongside us on the cliff face. In a rare fit of courage, Calamity tries to mount one of the goats in hopes of riding it to make travel along the crevice easier. As the lady goat lets him climb up onto it to ride it, Toddle and Avaran each go to mount goats themselves, with various degrees of success, and the baby goats follow them as they head off along the trail.
We have mounted the goats.
We have goats.
goats.
We've got goats. So basically, that whole episode was goats. Goats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love me some
Yeah.
goats.
There was obviously some really, really good lore we got from both Avaran and Calamity's character.
Mhm.
And that, those juicy lore moments.
Oh, we
Yeah.
love them. We love them.
Nom 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 nom.
I mean, I've been part of the show for something like, I want to say 30 episodes, and that was the first mention of my father.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
did
was-
love that we
And
got
that's
a little
big.
bit of history drops from two characters
Mhm.
that game, which was
Good,
awesome.
good history drop. Yeah.
And
Um,
I actually took the opportunity of Butters not being in that episode to, voice more concerns about Vera's motives, because
Mhm.
the whole time we thought we were at a Sharan temple, and Vera
Mhm.
worships Shar. And so then to find this painting with a Harengon on it that looks very similar, if not identical, to Calamity, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on with Vera here?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm very
Mhm.
eager to get some answers.
That is
Very
true.
eager.
Yeah.
Questions.
Also, a mural.
Nah.
We
Yeah.
get fun little lore told in murals and tapestries and churches. It's fun.
I loved that. It was like, to me, it was like a puzzle in the game. It was like a puzzle without doing the puzzle. It still kind of scratched that itch when we all kind of like did that together and we found that. I freaking love that. I freaking love that so much. You know, you always when you try something and you kind of get something back. Yeah. That is more than you expected. It always feels like good. Like, oh, like I think I just won 100% at this area. Video gamer. But yeah, and when it comes to the goats, I 100% thought those goats were just average goats. I was fooled. You got me. Random
they were.
I didn't say anything. Random goats. It's like thing. But yeah.
But once they allowed you to ride them, it was like, huh, okay, maybe what else is happening here?
Yeah, there was definitely a choice there. Like, you could have tried to eat them for meat. You could have used their path and followed a safe path or passage, or mount them. I was curious what you would do, so I was very happy that we chose the latter. But anyway, let's go ahead and take our break, and we will be back. And when we are back, this is when
we've got
story, which is
all right.
But all right, chat. We'll be back in 10 minutes, and we will see you then.
Yeah,
that was good.
Peace.
Wait.
Hello. Welcome
Howdy.
back, everybody. Hope everyone got a good snack. I got a nice glass of wine, and my dog's going crazy with this toy. But yeah, welcome back. We are going to get right into it and continue our recap.
All right, sounds good. Now, I base these off of the YouTube episode titles, and so I almost feel like we put the cart before the horse a little bit on this next one. Episode 47, The Valley of Death.
Oh.
So, the party continues their journey for a while, but eventually have to come to a stop because Calamity senses a predator up ahead. The predator senses us as well and emerges from its cave, but veiled by an invisibility spell. Avran, though, is able to get a sense of where it might be based on where the male goat is looking, and he casts a firebolt that doesn't hit its target, but does illuminate where it is. He then immediately follows up by casting Hunter's Mark on it so that he'll be able to track it from this point on. The creature attacks the male goat, and he responds in kind by ramming it in the head with his horns, knocking it further down the crevice. This causes the invisibility spell to lift and reveal that the creature is a basilisk. Unknown to the party, a figure off in the distance hears this commotion and begins to approach. Toddle and Avaran each attack the basilisk, and it responds by casting 2 chromatic orbs, one of which hits the rock face below Avaran's goat, causing it to lose its footing and fall. Avaran clenches his legs around the goat and thrusts his arms outward to cast Featherfall, which gives his goat the chance to regain her footing. Calamity then takes aim with the revolver and fires 4 magical shots of eldritch energy at the basilisk, dealing a devastating combination of thunder, force, fire, and psychic damage. The creature recoils in pain, one of the shots blowing a giant hole in the ribs of the basilisk, and this unexpected movement causes the male goat to miss its next attack and lose its footing. The figure above casts Speak with Animals and calls out to the male goat, asking it to give him a ride in exchange for his assistance. All of the goats look up at this, and the stranger then uses bardic inspiration to lift the male goat's spirits. Toddle's attention is attracted by this, but not enough to take his eyes off the basilisk, and he casts Lightning Lure, which not only damages the creature, but also draws it closer to Toddle, dealing slight damage to Calamity and Avaran because they were in the way. With the creature so much closer, Avaran draws out his snake sword and attacks the side of it that Calamity opened up with his revolver. His volley of attacks angers the creature, and it excretes a poisonous gas that affects everything in range. At this, Calamity's magic has a random surge, and he is sucked into a miniature black hole. Unexpectedly, the male goat then somehow casts Ice Knife on the basilisk, dealing a good amount of ice damage on the creature.
Pokemon sheep, yeah!
Right. It then moves up towards the stranger, who mounts it and rides down to join the rest of the party and calls out to Toddle. Toddle turns to see who is calling him and finds that the stranger is a comrade he believed to be dead, the halfling bard Dutch. Before he can figure out how Dutch is alive and what he's doing here, though, he rides over to Avran and uses a giant syringe to withdraw the poison from his body. Feeling rejuvenated, Avran turns his attention to the basilisk and unleashes 4 devastating attacks on the creature's open wound, and its body falls in pieces. As it does, though, another creature emerges from within the basilisk's belly and sprays a black tar substance from its throat towards Avaran, which he expertly dodges. At this moment, Calamity reemerges from the miniature black hole and accidentally casts Thunderwave, which hits both Toddle and Avaran. His magic continues to go haywire, and before he can regain his composure, he is transported to the astral plane. Meanwhile, the new serpent creature, who was also hit by a thunderwave and blasted back 10 feet, slowly claws its ways back to the party, but Dutch follows up with a thunderwave of his own and splatters the creature against the nearest cliff. Once everything is calmed down, Toddle observes that Dutch doesn't quite look the same as he did before. His skin is paler and his eyes look slightly jaundiced. Toddle then introduces Dutch to Avaran, as all of Toddle and Dutch's past companions have either fallen or turned traitor. Toddle then removes Dutch's possessions from the bag of holding, including his beloved electric guitar. Meanwhile, in the astral plane, Calamity sees all kinds of wondrous and terrifying things, such as planets colliding and a giant monstrous being who is manipulating everything around him. Calamity suddenly returns and is quite upset, having just been sucked into both a black hole and the astral plane within the span of a minute. As he begins to calm down, he notices there is someone new standing among them, and Toddle makes another introduction. Seeing the undead nature of Dutch, Calamity turns the revolver towards him, but Toddle assures him that Dutch is cool. Toddle then suggests that Calamity take his flute out and play some music, which puzzles everyone else, and Dutch suggests that they save that for another time. Dutch thanks Toddle for holding onto his possessions and offers to join them for the time being, and Toddle then harvests whatever he can from the basilisk before they continue on their journey. Toddle then begins to fill in Dutch on what he's missed since he died. The crazy gold guy, the finding of Calamity and Avaran, Fancy's demise, Lander's betrayal, Vera's arrival, being magically sent forward 100 years in time, and the current search for Vera and the Obsidian City. Taking everything in stride, Dutch turns to the goats and asks them about the area and where they might find the city. One of the females directs him to the male, who she identifies as Alpha, who is away from the group tending to his wounds. Dutch walks up to him and casts Cure Wounds before then asking him what he knows, and Alpha tells him that the city is miles past this trench through the Valley of Death. At this, the party continues on its journey, Dutch riding on Alpha and asking for his guidance through the trench, offering undying loyalty and friendship in exchange. Surprisingly, the goat accepts this offer and they head off, the rest of the party and the baby goats in tow. Realizing that the baby goats are still poisoned from the basilisk, though, Toddle suggests that they stop to heal them, and Avaran reminds the party of a cave within the side of the cliff wall that he saw through Niam's eyes, and he recommends that they all stop there to take shelter. So there we go. Dutch is back in the game.
I'm back, baby.
Yes.
Muted.
An amazing time to have another player rejoin the campaign and help us out, because we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, Nate, how did it feel jumping back into the campaign, especially mid-battle? How'd you feel?
Good. It's a first for me with any kind of like tabletop RPG coming in like off the side in like mid-battle. Very fun. Very like dynamic way to like enter a campaign. So that was super cool. You know, a lot of like, especially like, you know, when I was younger in high school and stuff like that, you know, it's like a lot of your campaigns as kids, you know, start out as like, well, you find yourself a weary traveler in a tavern.
Right.
So fun to have like a really dynamic and kind of inventive way to like jump in. And also for me, I'm like big on the action, so it's also a nice like getting to step back into a campaign and just like hit the ground running into combat is for me super super fun. I'm at least Dutch is kind of a shoot first ask questions later kind of guy. So being able to kind of play that up was super fun. Like we'll catch up later, we got some bad guys to kill.
Right. Yeah, I really love bringing somebody back from the old school campaign, just because all of their friends have been lost so far, and it's like, what better news to have than a familiar face, How did Toddle feel when Toddle saw Dutch?
Oh, yeah, so confusion, but ultimately very happy, considering that we just had Blue and Snowball completely murdered pretty much by those demons, and then the demon folk weren't very talkative or entertaining, at least in Toddle's eyes. So having Dutch come back to life, so to speak, and appear in these very seem like desolate but not at the same time, because there's goats there and there's certainly monsters and creatures there, and apparently gods living in caves. But having someone familiar just hanging around in the mountain, just appearing, and also having not the same memory, very interesting to what is it called? Yeah, just being able to like revisit Dutch again too, and like Dutch and Toddle were both the goofballs of the group. So being able to just have more hijinks ensue because both of us are not chaotically aligned, but like just goofy in nature, a gnome and a metal halfling. Like
I just love that you say that, because you both are kind of currently fucked up right now, because you both, for different reasons, have kind of gone down the kind of like a dark side.
Yeah.
You with losing, your friend who I kind of think it like your son, because you grew him up.
Yeah.
And for Nate, like, I'm not gonna say why, because I don't know if it's like said, but like, you went to some really dark places. Lucky for you, you're already dead, so you couldn't die again from that curse all of our friends got hit with. Lucky you, already zombied.
Yeah. Well, and prior to re-entering the world that I was living in prior to rejoining was just this like endless tundra of like desolate ice, just being compelled by some unknown force to just keep walking and walking and walking. So to see a familiar face, as surprised as being launched back into a different world, bear in mind that Dutch's soul had been toiling for years through an endless wasteland of
specifically
of ice and
100.
Yeah.
We think.
Yeah,
anyway.
and for days and days before you found them too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Dutch has had a lot of time to like ponder why the fuck he's even there to begin with.
Yeah.
Which he slowly starts to find out as the story continues.
And that's my cue to take
And
it
that's your
to
cue.
episode 48, Going Dutch. As I didn't come up with these titles. I'm just
That's
using
great.
the one that were on YouTube. Looking at you, GW. All right, episode 48, Going Dutch. As night starts to fall, the party and the goats approach the cave that Neom spotted so that they can rest. The party is relieved to have the break, as Toddle hasn't slept in over 2 days, Dutch has been dead for 100 years, and Calamity went to an entirely different dimension. As they settle into the cave, Toddle summons Mordenkainen's faithful hound to keep watch. It takes the form of a dog made up of several different breeds and is several different colors and textures. While he does this, Dutch takes a closer look at the cave and sees that there are spider webs all over, as well as a network of bioluminescent fungi on the walls. Then his eyes stop on a chest that is embedded into the cave wall. Dutch dismounts from the male goat and starts to set up camp while the rest of the group comes in. Avran walks up to him and asks if he can try something, which Dutch agrees to, because he has that kind of, roguish, whatever kind of attitude. Avran then casts Lay on Hands to see if it will help with his undead nature. But aside from making Dutch feel really good and clearing up the redness in his eyes, it has otherwise no effect. Dutch runs a hand over his head and feels the scars from the werewolf attack that originally killed him. He then gets flashes of his time in hell, which he finds unsettling. Seeing as he hasn't seen his own face since he died, he asks the party how he looks. And while Toddle and Avaran try to be diplomatic with their answers, Calamity tells Dutch that he looks terrible. Dutch then reaches over to Calamity and assures him that despite his appearance, he means him no harm. After all, Calamity doesn't know him, and he doesn't know Calamity or Avaran. At this, Calamity informs him that they are the Hellraisers, much to the chagrin of Avaran and Toddle. Avaran jokes that Calamity might as well take out an ad in the local newspaper regarding how often he's been throwing that name around with people he's just met. After a chuckle at this, Dutch notices the crystal hovering over Avaran's hand and asks him his story. Avaran recounts his journey for Dutch, telling him about finding himself as part of a chain gang in hell, but then escaping and hijacking the mind of a wyvern to fight two others, and then coming across Toddle and Calamity and catching a ride on their hell bike. Dutch then thanks them for allowing him to rejoin the group, and they all sit down to eat before bed. Calamity asks Dutch if he was able to see anything useful in the cave, since he himself found nothing, and Dutch tells the group about the chest he had found embedded in the cave wall. Avaran jumps up at this and looks to where Dutch indicated, and he immediately gets to work chipping away at the stone surrounding the chest with his shield. It is very slow work, though, especially with Calamity and Toddle just watching while Avaran works. Eventually, though, Toddle decides to help, and he casts Dispel Magic on the chest, since Dutch said he was hesitant about opening it. This creates an intense, high-pitched tone which affects the entire party before eventually fading away. Seeing that Avaran is still struggling to free the chest from the cave wall, Dutch offers his assistance with the task, first warning Calamity and the goats so that none of them are taken surprise by the Thunderwave spell that he wants to cast. The baby goats are less than cooperative at first, but Dutch is eventually able to corral all but one of them, so Avaran uses his shield to block its path until it eventually joins the rest of them. Dutch casts the Thunderwave spell, and it is very effective at freeing the chest from the cave wall. Excuse me. But it also accidentally irritates the fungi on the walls, which exudes a mist that lands on all of the party members and the goats. Another effect of the loud noise is that it sets off Calamity once again, and the sparks and fireworks start to form around him before firing off in all directions, hitting Avaran and Dutch, and also colliding with the walls, which cause more mist from the fungi. This injures and agitates the baby goats, and one of the mother goats gets upset with us and stomps her hooves on the ground. From the point where her hooves hit the ground, a wave of ice spreads along the ground and up the walls, killing the fungi. Avaran asks Dutch to apologize to her and explains that Avaran would like to heal them. The mother goat reluctantly accepts the apology and advises the party to show more discretion in the future, as the Valley of Death is an even more dangerous place than where we currently are. She also indicates that the male goat is their king and that she has no idea why he wants to help us. After Dutch relays this message to us, we notice that the lid of the chest is now fully exposed and can be opened if we're able to pick the lock. Having the necessary tools, Toddle successfully opens the chest to reveal that it is filled to the brim with diamonds. Digging deeper, though, they see that there is also a scroll at the bottom of it, and while they can't make out the language of what it is written on it, they do see that the bottom is signed by Orson. which Dutch recognizes as the god of the sky. Avaran wastes no time starting to scoop his share of the diamonds into his pack, and Toddle and Dutch join in. Once they have each finished jamming as many diamonds into their packs as they can, they all start to prepare for bed. Curiosity getting the better of him, Calamity asks Dutch about what it's like to be undead, regarding his need for food and rest. His thoughts being that if Dutch doesn't need to rest, then he can handle the watch during the night while the rest of the party sleeps. Hoping to create some goodwill with his new companion, Dutch agrees to take first watch, during which he plays a soft tune on his guitar and sits next to Toddle's spectral dog. He also sees that there are some whale-like creatures hovering through the darkness of the trench, the fungi along the trench glowing yellow gold as they pass. Dutch gently wakes Avaran after a few hours, recounting his experience with the whale creatures before asking him to take a turn watching over the camp. Avaran sees some other creatures scurrying around, but otherwise his watch is uneventful. As Dutch sleeps, though, he dreams of being in a white room with a marble floor. His hands are pink, indicating that he's not dead yet. He also finds himself in front of an elven woman in a suit of armor with golden hair. The armor has an emblem on it that has both an angel wing and a bat wing, and she carries a giant sword. He then leaves his body and sees himself talking to her, and she leans in and whispers something he can't hear, but he feels a sense of reassurance. He doesn't know what's being said, but on his face he can see shock, uncertainty, and then resolve that he is up to whatever challenge she laid before him. Dutch wakes up from his dream suddenly, drawing the attention of Avaran. Being in his presence, he starts to get the feeling that there is kinship between them, and that this world is wrong somehow, and that together the party can do something to set it right. Avaran responds by explaining that the reason he was in hell in the first place was because he was trying to find a way to free the trapped souls from the Great War, and that he has felt since he was a boy that the world needs correction. Dutch then swears that should Avaran and the party accept him back, he will pledge his service and loyalty to them.
I love this one because it was super cute and fun and silly.
And Dutch got a nickname, Captain Thunderwave.
Yes. Which traumatizes me for my past experiences and very previous characters, but that's okay.
Oh, what do you mean, Anne?
Sure, do tell the context.
Yeah. I'm sure it's not a running joke through the entire Fabled 42 community.
Oh my god. Well, GW casted Thunderwave when I was at like 2 hit points and killed me with it on accident during a battle because I was in the way. But anyway.
Very nice. Very nice.
And then I got killed by a mind flare. So like technically Denahi should have been dead.
On your birthday. I love you and I'm sorry.
On my birthday.
On your birthday.
I love you and I'm sorry.
Why'd you kill me?
Did anyone revive you? What level were you guys?
I don't even remember.
Oh wow.
Hard enough for it to really hurt.
But I was a glass cannon, so anything could have gotten me. And it
I
did.
see.
Anyway.
Butters,
I
you're
think
muted.
Butters might be saying something, but we can't hear him.
Butters.
Still
Still
muted.
can't hear you.
GW, you got the admin mute going, right?
Oh, is that still going?
Butters?
He's just pranking him.
Oh, no, it's not. Yeah, he's unmuted now.
Thanks,
In
GW.
Twitch
Thanks.
term, that's
You weren't here.
It's so good to have sabotage. It's okay. I was just talking shit.
Okay,
That's
But
what
yeah,
happens when you're not at the dinner table when the dinner bell rings.
gotcha. I loved that Dutch kind of had his I don't want to say his like realization or his like I don't know coming to process or whatever, but I love that he had that vision, that dream to kind of even more place him with the team, like like you belong here, and I feel like if it wasn't the exact person, that it was some kind of not double, but some kind of expression of the person that we saw when we went into the puzzle box. Am I wrong, Anne? Because I remember you saying that this person with that huge sword and everything had an emblem of a bat wing and like an angel wing. And so I don't know if it was like exactly her or maybe one of her, another portion of her. But I was like, oh, that's cool. That's dope. I love that you.
That's
had
certainly who I thought it was.
that.
Yeah, definitely not the same person, but the same army. The
Ooh,
same.
part of the same like order.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we maybe have like a cleric paladin arc developing?
What's a cleric? What's that?
I don't know. I totally have never had one before.
Never heard of one. Don't even know what that is.
Right.
That's a different life.
Speaking of armies, though, I mean, this is from a previous recap that you would have learned this, Nate, but the gang just kind of has like something like 150,000 strong ghost army at their disposal.
Oh,
Yeah.
you guys didn't feel like calling them in at any point?
It hasn't gotten that
We're
bad yet.
saving that. That's
Yeah.
our trump card.
It's kind of a one and done.
It's
Okay,
very
gotcha,
limited,
gotcha.
so we gotta be like smart about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So
I don't think Dutch knows about that yet. The
No,
character.
I did not. This is gonna be. It's a nice little thing to have in your back pocket.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that puzzle
And-
was fun.
Coincidentally, they are, as the title of episode 49 is, they are hidden in plain sight because we have them and you just can't see them.
yeah.
And so we continue on to the last episode of the recap.
Take it away, Chris.
As Avaran continues to keep watch after Dutch goes back to sleep, the snow continues to fall peacefully. Suddenly, though, he notices that the spectral dog's attention is fixed upon something. Avaran can't see what the dog does, but he hears something above the cave entrance. Knowing that Calamity's watch comes next, Avaran wakes him and asks him to join him at the edge of the cave. Up above, Calamity spies a giant barn owl perched on the cliff's edge and feasting on a recent kill, sensing a theme here. Calamity sleepily ponders this, as it is not the first time the party has come across an owl that looks like this, possibly even this owl. Calamity ascends the cliff face in one giant bunny hop to land roughly 15 feet from the owl, which startles it, causing it to drop its prey. Tongue twister. Causing it to drop its prey in place as it flaps its wings to land 10 feet further from his sudden guest. As it stares angrily at Calamity, he notices that this is in fact the same owl that he and Toddle have interacted with before. He asks the owl if she is friendly and introduces himself, but she flaps her wings and flies off westward along the ridge of the trench until she disappears out of sight. More than anything, the beauty of seeing the owl in flight brings Calamity back to himself after his jarring time in the astral plane. Calamity descends the cliff face to return to Avaran at the cave's edge. He tells Avaran that what he heard above was the owl they've been interacting with over the past few days, and how it's curious that it keeps managing to find them. He also says that he thinks the owl may have understood what he was saying to it, to which Avaran muses that the owl may have just been deciding whether or not Calamity would make for a better dinner than what it had. Calamity is unnerved by this, but continues talking about the owl, also remarking that it was curious that the owl seemed to be headed in the same direction as the party. Avaran offers Calamity a swig of his hell whiskey, and Calamity knocks right back out. After a few more hours, the sun begins to rise and Avaran busies himself with waking the rest of the party. Feeling refreshed, like only a good night's sleep after a long period of restlessness can do, Todd awakes and sets to making breakfast from the various different foods contained within his pack, despite the fact that he is far from an expert chef. He ultimately concocts a sort of oatmeal with rosemary carrots that looks a little questionable to Avaran, who opts to eat one of his rations from his pack instead. As Calamity and Dutch eat their breakfast together, they talk about Dutch's unique instrument, which almost looks like a cross between a lute and a violin. Apparently, guitars don't exist in this world. Not having much of an appetite, excuse me, Dutch sets his bowl down and grabs his guitar and hands it to Calamity to give it a try. Through some sort of divine intervention, Calamity absolutely shreds. And Dutch, a little taken aback by this, plays it down and remarks that, well, music is better when you've been drinking.
Hater.
Avaran then hands Dutch the whiskey bottle, and after taking a drink, Dutch begins to play a tune about the goats. The effects of the hellish alcohol overwhelm Dutch's senses, though, and he has to stop before he becomes ill. Calamity takes this opportunity to fill the group in about what happened to him when he disappeared the day before. He describes fantastical, otherworldly things, and through Toddle and Avaran's learning and experience, they know that Calamity was more than likely in the realm of the Zero God, the astral plane. Calamity then tells Toddle and Dutch about his experience with the owl the night before, to which Dutch replies that we should follow it to learn more, despite the fact that the owl appeared to fly off into a storm cloud. Dutch goes to the mouth of the cave to see the cloud, and while it may be about a mile or so in the distance, it also appears to block everything from view, as if it were a solid wall. He deduces that this may be the barrier to the Valley of Death, and that they will have to pass through it to get to their destination. As they pack up to leave, Toddle passes out some extra potions to his companions that he thinks might be helpful to them in their travels, giving Calamity a potion to change his appearance once they get to the city, and Avaran a potion that will improve the swiftness of his attacks. Toddle then digs deep into his bag of holding and pulls out the last of the blue muffins that Dutch was so fond of much earlier in the campaign and gives it to him. The party then mounts their respective goats and they continue onward. As they continue on down the trench, they pass another cavern that is even larger than the one they took shelter in, and not only do they hear something inside, but the goats all appear to be on edge as well. Toddle investigates and can see fur and a reptilian tail, but the darkness of the cave hides all the other details. The alpha of the herd urges Dutch to move on, and Dutch uses this opportunity to question the alpha about the journey ahead. The alpha lets him know that the journey only gets more dangerous as they continue, and that it would be best to let this creature sleep and move on. Speaking with Dutch as they continue on, Calamity comes up with an idea to possibly help Dutch with his undeadness, and offers Dutch a vial of his own blood for Dutch to consume. With a devil-may-care attitude, Dutch downs the blood in one gulp, much to the horror of Toddle and Avaran. Dutch suddenly freezes, his eyes turning all black, and his body then disappears to the astral plane. He finds himself suspended in space, surrounded by nebulas and galaxies. He then starts to see different images from his past, almost as if he is reliving memories. He smells the scent of cigars and ale, hears the sound of glasses clinking and a bar fight developing. He is then drawn backward, revealing 3 shining gateways within the surroundings of the astral plane. In our world, the party tries to figure out how to bring Dutch back, something even Calamity isn't sure of despite having disappeared like this multiple times before. Toddle also isn't able to find anything in any of his books. The alpha suddenly declares to the party that time is short, and he stomps his hooves on the ground, transporting the rest of the party to an entirely different plane, where they find themselves in front of a large man covered in leathers and furs, long gray hair braided with stones and leaves, and a crown of berries atop his head.
Legendary Pokemon.
He stands in front of them in silence, his eyes glowing white, and he gestures behind him where the party sees a dark spot appear in the blank whiteness behind him. The spot grows into a portal through which Calamity sees Dutch floating off into the distance, and through which Dutch can see him as well. Dutch calls out to him, which draws the attention of Avaran, who doesn't hesitate to dive through the portal to try and save him. Meanwhile, Toddle tries to get some kind of an answer out of this mystery man, but he remains silent. Avaran's hand locks with Dutch's, and he pulls him in and ties the two of them together with his rope. He then thrusts Dutch back towards the opening and beckons to Calamity to use his big hand to help them, to which Calamity just kind of stares at his hand dumbfounded. Toddle uses one of his creations that looks sort of like an airplane and ties a rope to it as well, throwing it to his friends so they can grab it and pull them in. In addition to this, Avaran also casts a mage hand behind himself and uses it to push himself and Dutch back through the portal to safety. Avaran and Dutch hit the ground hard after coming through the portal, which the mysterious man then closes behind them. With this, they are then returned to the material plane and find that the goats had continued on through the crevice without them. Calamity muses at the fact that now they have all experienced to some degree what he goes through anytime he disappears, almost as if it were a bonding experience. In response, Dutch vows to never drink Calamity's blood again. Suddenly, the Alpha addresses the party and tells them that he, or implies, maybe, that he was the man in the other plane and that he and the rest of the druids have been hiding for hundreds of years, too afraid to show their true selves on this plane of existence. Dutch asks if they can accompany the party on their journey, but the Alpha tells them that they cannot travel beyond the crevice and that the party must venture into the Valley of Death without them. He assures us that there are others out there and that there will always be one of their kind watching over them, to which Calamity and Avaran go wide-eyed, remembering the owl that has been following them. With that, the party thanks the druids for their helps, and they start to part ways. Dutch turns back and asks the Alpha's true name, and he identifies himself as Koa, the king of the druids. Toddle is deeply uncomfortable with this for some reason and starts to walk off into the wall of fog, but Calamity uses his magic to cast Bigby's hand and grabs Toddle to bring him back to face Koa. Toddle's reaction is to go invisible, but regardless, Koa thanks him for using his genius to destroy the first turret, which ended up freeing several of his family members. He then advises Toddle and the rest of the party to use secrecy regarding their identities and to keep any information learned in the city to themselves. He even hints that the next turret may be located there and that we should keep an eye out for it. As the druids then head off into the distance, Calamity releases his magical grip on Toddle, who lifts his invisibility spell. Dutch asks if the group is ready to take this step into the unknown together, and as Calamity hops into the fog, Avaran draws his snake sword, ignites the flame, and says, "You're fucking A-right, we are." The rest of the party steps into the fog to join Calamity, and with the thickness of it, it is very difficult to see, and Toddle nearly falls into a crevice. To prevent this from happening again, Avaran ties the rope to the rest of the party members, and they continue onward. It doesn't take long to make it through the fog, and as it clears, they see that they're at the edge of a cliff overlooking a gorge. Through the gorge flows a river, and in the distance they see snow-covered mountains and the black spire of the city, which seems to be carved entirely out of obsidian. Who knows what dangers lie in store for them?
Hey! Great job, Chris. Really, really, really amazing job.
Yeah, well, I'm not doing the next one. That's someone else's job.
Very good work.
Thank you.
Did not see the Pokemon goats being awesome druids. I freaking loved it, and I loved that, like, in the episode, and I think in the other episodes before that too, but we could only Dutch could hear them, but I love in the episode, like, even the kids, like, I think when Avaran was like, "Wait, you're all druids?" and the kids were like, "Yep," and they like hopped as goats.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought that was so funny.
Yep. They're out there, and they're still plentiful, but they just have to hide.
I have a question for you,
I was
DM,
just about to ask.
and I have gold writing on your answer.
Okay.
I made a deal. So the robust man, when we went to that dimension of white, who had the long beard and the crown of berries and that whole thing, was that the king druid?
It was.
Yeah.
Fuck!
Yeah.
Well, there goes 100 of my gold.
Yeah, like he can only appear as himself, because I feel like throughout time, since it's been a few hundred years since this war.
Yeah.
Throughout time, they've kind of adapted to where they can only appear in like certain planes as their other world, like their true forms. But in this plane, they're kind of locked down to specific creatures.
I don't know why you're worried about 100 gold. We determined that we each
Oh, yeah.
have
Yeah.
I
10
love-
gallons of diamonds.
It's more about just who's right.
Well,
Yeah.
that too, but Nate, I am a dragon, and I do not want to part with any piece of my gold.
Yeah.
All right, take
We're
your
gonna have to
100
load
gold,
up.
Avaran,
Yeah.
and get out of my face. Ugh.
We're gonna
Although-
have to load up pretty heavily. So.
Yeah. Nate does point out though that we are essentially like Oprah rich now. I mean,
I love
Yeah.
it.
because
Again,
I don't
this is
think.
like the third time the party's been like, we have unlimited gold, basically.
Well, okay. So, but
Almost spend it
we
all.
did the math on this, and I didn't say it in the recap, but the chest was described as being able to be like containing 40 gallons worth. So this is literally
Diamond.
40 gallons of diamonds.
Okay,
Yeah, if anybody's
wait,
interested,
but
that
what is the
map
value
in
of
the
the
Discord,
individual
I think.
diamonds?
So
'Cause-
based on diamonds in
God,
D&D
what the-
Beyond, each it says diamond 5,000 gold, but we ultimately did real world math on this and found that if that many diamonds were here, it'd be like $34 million.
Yeah.
It's
So
an absurd
basically,
amount of money. Yeah, I
And
think
you-
all of us have the equivalent of 32.5 million gold pieces of in-game currency based on the number crunching.
And
Yeah.
you have
That
all the
went
gold
down.
from before, all these weapons.
yeah, and then
like, you've just
we
been
have a bunch of
traveling.
I have platinum from before this.
Well, it hasn't been safe to go into any like bigger cities. Like the only city you were in that port city, but there's,
Yeah,
you know, it was
I
pretty
I got a tattoo.
right. And it's like you
And
haven't been able
food.
to spend it, but now you're gonna go to this city, and it's like actually all the wealthiest family is what lives there. So
That's true. I think
Time to go
we
shopping.
are. I was gonna say
Airship.
I have a lot planned for us coming into the city, and a lot of purchases to be made, not just for my benefit, but for the whole party, to make us very, 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 very secure as we approach into the higher levels from level 15 onward.
And Nate, just to add to it, like, so me and Toddle, we've like been rich. We've been rich for a really long time, but it was
Yep.
Avaran who was the
Rich.
poor guy. So him finding those diamonds, that was his like, hey, I have money now, because
Welcome to the big leagues.
Yeah.
So
He
he's
can
new
actually
money. He's
purchase.
new money.
Well,
Yeah.
because Avaran grew up poor. I mean, he grew up above a tavern.
Yeah.
His mom was killed when he was like 8 years old, and so he lived on the street.
The
Before
life
then, he
of a
joined a
thief.
street gang. The
Yep.
entire gang was killed. So then he became a mercenary. So like he has always just been working to get by, and so this is an unfathomable amount of money to him.
Yeah.
I'm so happy
Yep.
for you. I am.
Yeah, this is good. Meanwhile, like Toddle has just been like freaking chipping away. Just gold. Gold is not an object. Just
Well, similar to
freaking-
Avaran, Dutch is very much a starving artist. So,
So this is great.
yeah.
So he just got his record deal.
Just going from like bar gig to bar gig,
Yeah.
trying to make ends meet.
oh
That's
my
what's
gosh.
up. I feel
Definitely
like there
be
was
strategic about it though.
Yes,
Definitely be
we-
strategic about
we
it.
we were warned in the early days that like power, like with magic or whatever items, like if you're seen as if someone is seen that's not like a part of the family or whatever, is seen like flaunting, crazy amounts of money and power and stuff, they'll come get you. So we gotta act like we're
Terrence.
we
cough,
we
cough.
gotta act like we don't come from money. So
The gold worshiper gets killed.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Anne, DM,
Yeah.
how come the king druid when he was in his true form in that white space dimension, how come he couldn't speak?
Oh, because it's part of he didn't have enough magic for it. Like he
Interesting.
yeah, he
Reasons.
kind of because I was trying to tally it up, and it's like he
Mhm.
kind of he had to like go save Dutch.
Yeah,
So he
sorry.
only
Was tearing open a portal to the astral realm not enough for you? You need the guy
I
to, like, pat you up?
mean, I was just curious.
It's
'Cause,
also
like,
How powerful can this guy be? He can't even
and they
talk.
don't
It's
don't
like
even
literally like Spider-Man style, holding open the gates of Gehenna, and
and it's probably
like,
been
you guys
it's
are very
probably
chatty today.
it's probably been 100 years since he's even done that. So the fact that he even used that magic at all was
Yeah.
like
He can
do a ghost
spontaneous.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was aggressive, Chris. I'm sorry. Jeez. Well, that was dope. I loved how you described him. Like I really had that like very strong image, and like of course like in my heart when you did, I was just like, that sounds like a druid. But you know, in our time, or you know, from you know everything, druids are all dead, extinct. So the only thing that Calamity was like, oh, you're like some kind of like wizard. Because that's
Yeah, everyone
like
thought he was a wizard.
that's what's around. Because yeah, you're all wizards, but
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm weird. I thought he was the ghost of Christmas present.
Nice.
I definitely was gonna say, imagine like an earthy Santa. Like that's what he looks like.
There we go.
Earthy
I like
Santa.
that.
Hippie
I
Santa.
like it.
that.
Saint Nick,
Chris?
but make it Bertley.
Yeah.
And
Oh, like Eric's Santa that he did for
Yeah,
that
the
Amazon
yoga-
thing.
it was
Yoga
so good.
Santa.
Yoga
That
Santa.
was
Oh
an
my God, I
earthy
love it.
Santa.
And when Dutch was floating through the astral plane, he came across 3 doors.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I missed it because I was like doing things and whatever. But did you already describe what those doors were? Those 3 doors?
Yeah, they were just golden doors. You don't know what was through them or anything, but they
just
exist.
just
enough.
float in space. I don't want to
There's 3
open
of 'em.
one.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
It's there. It's up to you if
Noted.
you want to go through, and they're just there.
I mean, I saw planets get eaten by a very large. I'm okay. I'm all right.
Right.
But yeah. Well, that was an excellent recap. Episode 50 was like our celebration one shot that we did with Hellball, or what is it? The Wandering Eye.
The
Demon
Wandering
Quidditch.
Eye.
The
Ah.
Wandering Eye. So
Demon
that
Quidditch.
that one is not really in the canon, but it sort of is. Like to me, I'm thinking like it's like some kind of dream or something, or maybe it is just like a fun little celebration thing that we did. But like I loved it. It was so. I can't wait for round 2. I cannot wait.
No, it was a
for
fun
round 2.
episode.
Parallel
Super
universe.
fun.
And we have Dutch and Vera coming into this as well, so it's like more power.
Yes. I love
More.
Butters that you came in ready to play Vera, and you didn't know that it was the like you forgot because I told you that it was like our celebration thing. So we were
No,
doing
I came in knowing it was the celebration, ready to play Lander because it wasn't a canonical event.
Oh yeah, and then I said it was Vera by accident, so you had to play Vera.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing it the other way now.
Oh, oops. Well, you
Too
did
many
great though.
characters. Too many
You
characters
did,
to juggle.
yeah, it's your own fault. But no, you did great. You did great, kid. You helped us get a point. But yeah. Well, any for the last few minutes of this chat, if you have any questions for us, now is the time.
Ask away.
As we
If,
go into the final season.
I don't even want to say it out loud. I hate it. It gets me
Right?
anxiety.
I
I'm
was
not
just
ready.
on break. I was just talking to my roommate, and I was like, "Oh, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm gonna have to immediately join another campaign because I'm gonna be like, I want to play. Like, this is.
I'm not ready yet.
I'm not ready to let this go."
But it's gonna be pretty epic because I have some guest players in line to play some characters
Ooh.
that'll help.
Yeah.
I've got
Ooh.
previous characters coming back.
Yep.
It's
Anne's
gonna
doing
be,
the most.
It's
Doing
gonna
the
be
most.
epic. So every single episode is gonna be packed full of story. So, and yeah, and I'm hoping that like the final battle episode we might have to schedule on a specific day, but we'll get to that just because plans.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
we absolutely will celebrate. In
Yeah,
those.
I I don't know if the final
Celebratory.
battle is gonna fall into like a 2.5 hour episode.
No, it's gonna be
No.
like it's gonna be a 4 hour episode.
I was gonna say there's gonna be a pregame, and then there's gonna be like a
I love pre-gaming.
yes,
Yeah.
the
So
big pregame. Ooh, it'll be spicy. I'm ready.
yeah.
Question to you, Nate, from me. Have you
Yes.
like fully updated your Duchess sheet yet? Like, have you picked your new spells and stuff yet?
Oh, I guess you could, huh? Yeah, because you're dead
No,
and
I
shit.
need to get on that.
Mm-hmm.
You got
I was
bard
like, you
shit.
really only have 3 third level spells for real? You might gonna need
I
them.
gotta,
You
I
might
gotta
gonna
poke
need 'em.
around and we'll see what happens.
Well, you got a week to do it.
Yeah, next week will be exciting because we're reintroducing Vera.
Yeah,
So
Sweet.
me and Butters gotta talk
Yeah.
about it, but
our freaking killer ass monk gonna fucking kill shit with
Yep.
bare hands,
yeah,
and the power of Shar compels
and
you.
finally someone of similar height to Averin.
I think
No.
Vera's short as fuck, by the way.
Oh,
You know
really?
what? You're
It's
more
like
than
5 something.
you're more than 3 feet tall. That's what
Yeah, I was
matters.
gonna say
Yes.
we're the.
I'm sorry. Do we make you feel uncomfortable being around us? I'm sorry.
We're
I feel like a
short.
freaking giant, man.
You are a freaking giant to us.
I mean,
You're unnatural.
Yeah.
There is no reason why someone should be your height. But anyway,
Hang around the mushrooms and you hang out talking to trees, you know, like it's all in retrospect.
You just have some mushrooms?
No, just like we're mushroom height, like toadstool height.
Oh,
Your
okay.
tree closer to that than we are. The
Nate.
conversation.
how did you feel when Calamity just fucking shredded on your guitar and you didn't come close to his talent? How did you feel about that?
Not great.
Uh,
Not great.
That's fair.
Not
It's
great,
totally
not
valid.
great.
Fair and valid. Yeah, it's all right.
There is a game.
I mean, in my defense, I've been in a purgatory wasteland for
Oh
100
my-
years.
I
Yeah.
mean, they say 1 in 5
Without the
guys has
guitar.
performance issues.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. It's totally normal. It's totally normal. We don't judge. It's totally all right.
No, GW Calamity. There is a game. I don't know if we were in the lavender fields when we did it, but you did bust and fucking play the lute or something. You played something magical. and-
Yes, the
Yeah.
flute. The
Yeah.
flute, yeah.
So
Well-
that was that. You've got the magic stylings. Just saying.
Calamity, his people are very, they were very comfortable, like, you know, where he's from. So the way that they weren't like, I don't want to say that they were like crazy religious, because they weren't, but they still kind of, the way that they celebrated their kind of worship of the earth god that, you know, brings them, like, you know, all this bounty and stuff that, you know, I've learned that the whole world doesn't have, that was kind of special. But the way they celebrate it was like with big feasts and like music and stuff. So, him and music and instruments,
Go hand in hand.
it's kind of a thing, and this still kind of kills me. I'm gonna say it. So
Say it.
when Calamity, it's a huge spoiler alert, but it's been
Say
like
the weird.
it's
thing.
been a bajillion episodes, so I'm just gonna go into it. So when I made Calamity, like, he had certain items. He had certain kind of special items to him,
Oh yeah, the gem.
but besides that,
Yeah.
he also had some other stuff. But what I did not know was this: Anne was gonna say like, "Oh, all that was taken from you." I did not know that she was gonna say that. So when I was caged and you found me, like, all of my stuff had been gone. But Calamity's favorite instrument of choice that he had before it was stolen, I was gonna make it this thing like he's always looking for his bag. It's like a special bag. He's always looking for his bag. But his instrument of choice are very annoying bagpipes.
I was thinking.
Oh my god.
Very annoying bagpipes that I was gonna use the shit out of. But
You
they were
know
stolen
there's
from
gonna
me.
be an instrument store in that city now.
You know I'm looking. I'm
Here we
looking
go.
for a new bag. I'm looking for a new
Here we
bagpipes.
go.
Hey,
Yeah,
you know
and
what?
Calamity never got his bag. Damn.
Bagpipes in the right hands though can sound amazing. Like
That's
look up
true.
there's like this one redheaded chick who plays bagpipes and she could do like
Mhm.
Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force on them.
Oh my
Ooh.
god. Hell yeah.
No,
I'll look that up.
it's amazing.
I'll check that out.
Noted.
Well,
I have a question before
Yeah.
I know we're at time, but I might as well keep asking. How can we get a spoiler alert into maybe what's to look out for in the future of the campaign? How we're gonna reintroduce Vera? If you know.
Well, if you
I'm
want to
su-
know how we're gonna reintroduce Vera, you should be here next week.
Yes.
Okay.
But
We
I
all
will give
should be
you
here.
I will give you a layout of what so you can kind of plan in your head what to do. Up ahead is the Valley of Death, which is a giant gorge. It's pretty dark, kind of covered in mist, so there's not a lot you can see from where you're at, but it is a rock climb down to it. So, gotta figure that shit out.
Tricky terrain.
Once you
Featherfall.
yeah, tricky terrain. It's
Flight,
like
flight potion.
yeah, it's like a
gas. What is it? Gas. The gas spell.
Don't
oh
you
my
turn
God,
me to
gas
gas
is-
again.
Everyone gets turned to gas.
Oh my god.
We
Great.
comrade.
You get turned to
together.
gas. You get turned into gas. Everyone gets turned into gas.
Nobody fort.
That would actually work. But it's like a 3-mile drop into this gorge. The Valley of Death, I'm going to wait till you get there. But once you do the
Okay.
Valley of Death, it's just like a giant gate, and this city is huge. And I am currently been working on it for days now.
Yeah.
Building a
big
pretty
city.
thorough. I'm gonna have a flat map.
I'm gonna
of the
need
basic
armor. I'm gonna
layout.
need weapons. I'm gonna need potions. I'm gonna need spellcasters. I'm gonna need a library that's got all the scrolls.
Yeah, your destination is
Woo!
definitely to get to the information, but it's heavily guarded.
Oh darn.
And it's gonna be. I don't think it'll be that. It's gonna be like a functioning city, though. Like I don't think you're in direct danger unless you give yourselves up too easily, or you look suspicious. But most of the people there, it's not a very heavily populated city. There's not a lot of people know about it, but those who do, those have
Are like
really
elves,
powerful
yeah.
magic,
Yeah.
are there. So keep that in mind if you ever pick a fight with somebody. But
Charisma rolls, everybody. Charisma rolls.
yeah, but should be fucking awesome. I'm super excited for y'all.
What about Vera?
Oh, Vera.
We just get to the bottom of the gorge, and Vera's just kind of sitting on a branch of a tree eating an apple or something. Like, what
What
took
What
you
took
guys
you
so long?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
How'd you
Oh,
guys
we'll
know?
see. Oh, we'll see. And Vera, prepare to get interrogated by these folks, I'm sure.
I don't know what they have not to trust about Vera.
None of the things I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
or the fact that like we exit hell and you're just waiting there for us.
Vera works in very mysterious ways, but it's only helped us, so
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be
that'll
fun.
be exciting.
Well, all right. Well, before we like do it to end it,
Leave the
Nate,
thing.
Yes.
do you have any questions for us? I mean, you're the oldest one, yet the newest ones, all in the same. Do you have, after everything you've heard, like before you kind of came back, like, does anything ping anything or?
I think in keeping with the character of Dutch, I think we're gonna just kind of go in guns blazing.
Yeah.
I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah.
If it's important, I think it will come up. Otherwise, I'm again, Dutch, very like fly by the seat of your pants approach. I already died once.
You sure did. You sure did.
What's the worst that could happen?
True.
Right?
So
True.
I'm curious to see, as we move into this last season, if Dutch is going to get like a god of his own.
Right?
Oh,
Oh man.
Or we're gonna find out if I can die again. Is Die Hard 2 Die Harder?
I love that was the actual title of it.
Yeah, a fucking horrible name for a film.
I love Die Hard.
Well, yeah, Die Hard 1 is good. Die Hard 2,
Die Hard 2,
not
not
so
good.
much.
Yeah.
Die Hard 3.
I still like it.
Live
Okay,
Free or
okay.
Die Hard was decent.
Yeah. I mean, the fifth one was garbage, but like
How many
Aw.
are
One-
there?
5.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But like 1 through 4,
I
I
like Bruce Willis.
like 'em all.
By show of hands, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
God, yes.
Everything's a Christmas movie.
All right.
Yes.
So,
Like
follow
if
up:
it-
is a Pop Tart a ravioli?
Yes.
Ooh.
Is it?
No,
No, it's
actually,
a pastry.
It's,
Filled
It's a
pastry.
pastry.
Yeah.
It's not a pasta.
Oh, you mean it's dough filled with a delicious filling?
Yeah, but it's not boiled.
Yeah.
Ah.
But it's baked? Question mark? I don't know.
What
I
about
don't
a
think
fried
fucking
What about
ravioli.
fried ravioli? Are they not ravioli?
Who
Uh,
fries a Pop Tart?
Pasta is a specific
Mhm.
kind of dough.
Someone in Texas.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes,
Absolutely
not.
absolutely.
No.
Yes.
I put to you that a hot dog is really more like a taco.
No,
They
Actually, you know
both
what?
go
I'm with Chris on
in
this
I
one.
like where this
a
vertically.
went.
hot dog is a roll. All right.
I hate to interrupt this amazing conversation,
Sorry, I got everybody sidetracked.
but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start shutting it out. At this
Yay.
time, players and chat, figure out what a rating message should be.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so many good ideas.
Is it a sandwich?
Unholy poly.
Unholy poly. Oh my god.
I like Unholy Poly. I will also put forth Die Hard 6, Die Hardest.
Die Hard. Please, please.
Which, if that's also,
I like Die
if
Hardest.
that's
Here,
not
I
the
got
name
this.
of our finale episode, I'm gonna be really upset.
Die.
Noted.
Die Hard 7, die even harder than the last time.
Oh my
Dare
God.
I?
No,
Dare I
Die Hard
bring up?
8, Dimageddon.
Dimageddon.
Oh.
Armageddon. Dare I bring up Cards Against Humanity and the running joke with every expansion of Cards Against Humanity? If you know, you know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
Just
don't
look
Maybe
it
know.
up.
also don't say it on stream.
Yeah. I don't know.
s-
That's suggestive content.
When I see the raid message in our chat, I will copy it down and I will
Okay.
start
I need
the
a,
raid.
I need a emote. Yeah, thank you, Chris.
All right.
Ah,
Copy paste. Copy paste.
Are
I
we,
got the
let's
laser
try to
gun.
not get anybody banned this
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah, sorry about the last raid. They were that they
Jerks.
were and oh yeah, they just so
no, I think it was
get it.
automod.
yeah,
if I
it's
had to guess.
automod. It's not
If
them.
you have any kind
Oh,
of
they're
automod
even-
on and you try to like spam a repeating message from multiple
Yeah.
people, it's gonna shut that shit down.
Yeah.
Just mild spoilers for the future. Don't worry about it.
that is that my boy?
What if he was a druid?
Oh
Who
my
knows?
god.
I did think about that. Oh, yeah, I'm not going into it. Anyway, now that we have our rating
Oh
message,
my god.
just some last things before Anne does the our out message. Let's see if I can remember them. Oh yeah. So at the top of next week, I have something to reveal to you all, both the players and the DM and the chat. Only those in our Patreon knows what project that I've been working on, and it is finally completed, and I can show it and add it to things and do all kinds of stuff.
Wait, GW,
Really
when did I
ex-
join the Patreon?
Really excited to reveal it and show you all. I am so fucking excited. So
Nice.
definitely be here next week to see what that is. Also, this Friday, you can catch me on Jason's channel, Critical
Oh,
Dice,
yeah.
as we go into the next episode of the Grey Watch, where we are kind of like dimensional traveling adventures. So check me out there. I believe it's going to be 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern.
And
I
I
think.
think Jason's his new thing. I think it's called Jason Games or something. I'm gonna look it up super quick
You might be right. You actually
because
very
it's
well
not
might
under
be right.
Critical. Yeah, it's not under Critical Role anymore. It's Jason something. Hang on, I follow him.
Awesome. I'll let you look that up, and I'm going to set up this raid as
Do it.
Anne does the thing.
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you again so much for joining you guys on our recap. This was kind of just a cozy recap episode. Still jam-packed with action. It was really nice kind of hearing the story back and I don't know, reliving some of the memories. I am so super excited for the future. Things are going to pick up. I have gotten feedback that I am too easy on the team, so I am going to make my adjustments. And
Hey,
I
we've
also
got
have dice that roll
reinforcements.
better. So definitely tune in. And if you want to help out the team, remember to like and subscribe and
Guys,
use your points.
you can't
to
complain
give
that
us-
they go too easy on us and then help us out. You got to be helping them out, man.
Yeah, you might want to, or you can help me out. I'm just saying, because I don't roll that great either.
No,
ever,
that's what I'm
so.
saying. They should be helping the DM out.
Now
Yes.
Tig will do 5 bad luck blisses per
Yeah.
episode.
Oh my god.
Hell yeah, and that doesn't mention if like more people come in and do bad luck blitzes too.
I
Like
mean,
us.
I
Blitz,
think
blitz, blitz,
I
blitz,
have
blitz,
enough
blitz,
channel
blitz.
points that I can do enough blitzes to last
Just do
us a
it.
season.
Just do it.
Yes. So tune in. I'm so excited to see you guys next week as we find Vera finally after miles and miles of searching. So stay tuned.
Nordic Geek, as we exit, Nordic Geek, I like that. In the tavern chat, we should have them start to come up with ideas for creatures, and hey, we'll see if any of
Yeah.
them show up in the campaign.
Oh,
And my
totally.
infusions too. I think
That
Tig is the
too.
only one.
Yes, I was also thinking of while going through because I have a dice, and every time someone's doing a watch, if they roll low enough, I have to roll the dice, and each number is a creature that they run into. So if I see some good suggestions in there, I'll totally use those creatures. Drop them in.
All right, let's wrap
All
this
right,
up.
we are going to Alt Haven. Bye,
Okay.
guys.
Bye.